Okay. Okay, so if I just do the same
You
one.
use that password, log in.
Okay. And then as far as, is that the only information I have to input, or do it from the serial number? The forwarded? So I don't need to create an account for, no, I do need an account for, like you did. I took all those notes that day we met, I didn't go back through them until ours are shipping.
Yeah,
So
so
it
that's,
should-
that's all we gotta do is just log in. Yeah, but they had, because you won't have to.
Really, woman?
Yeah. Find out somewhere else and you register.
Oh.
Yeah, refresh. It should be good. They should be good.
Yeah, so we have no Chromebooks, but we have 11 Chromebook cards. We have tablets, but they're tablet cards.
There was a
So
little bit of,
since we get those, we'll be able to roll them out.
they always have you check them. I said, yeah. And then Chris, the secretary. Yeah, is that all we're doing? This one should be worth a lot.
Yeah, those butters aren't worth.
That's just for a while.
Just let you know, I went ahead and came over and accepted
I
the
saw it, yeah.
invite.
I
So
see it's
just,
there.
just heads up, it's on, it's already set to be muted on the mic and sharing the desktop. So when time or anything would just go up and as normal. I'll do the change on my end where I go from showing his screen to showing your screen. You don't have to do anything at all.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. You'll just conduct as needed, right?
Yeah, I'll just, you just do your normal thing, and I'll click over there and switch between stuff as need be.
Can I use my mouse?
Mhm.
Computer? Here. Nope.
I don't think they can do both at the same time. I'll shut that out.
You don't have to.
It's okay. Is yours working now? Cool.
Are you sure? Well, I can take this out and bring it up when I come, just because it's easier for me to use my mouse because I'm familiar with it.
Yeah.
That one is
You're
fantastic.
starting, so you can do it.
Are you sure?
Mhm.
You might not like it. You know, you're showing your screen.
Yeah, I did know. Thank you.
Why don't you change the name on that to you instead of me?
Just, just haven't. I like being Paula. Maybe that's it. I'll just put this up for now.
Okay.
Yeah, I've thought
Here,
of that.
put yours in and I'll just do mine when I come up. It's no big deal.
Okay.
Yeah,
As long as it works.
yeah, it did. My mouse isn't quite as fast as his.
Oh, the speed adjustment.
You know what?
Well, he's always doing his off of his hip. Never seen him walk around like fun. He walks around and does it off his hip.
I think the ones when trainers have the is it blur?
The trails
The
or whatever.
trails, yeah. That's,
South Tuscarora. Not bad. It's very heavy.
Well, and I noticed on the news.
Well, you're used to
I
it.
forget all those doing that mouse.
Cambridge this time.
You want us to do a little bio about it?
So they come across.
Yeah.
It's really funny. It doesn't like being in the center of the computer.
what?
It doesn't like being in that side of my computer.
Hmm.
It's been always been here. So I'm just gonna flip off and bring it to me. It's easier for me.
It's fine. Whatever you need to do.
Who's most?
Mine. You gotta come in that tabletop thing. The contest. The mouse pad's pretty beat up too.
As I'm saying, this mouse pad.
Sure. Does it work better?
Yeah, use this.
What else are you gonna change about my setup?
Nothing.
I do have my name called. Maybe I put that out.
Good, how are you, Dad?
I didn't hear what you were starting with. They came in. Oh my God, sounds like fun.
We'll do the demo for that.
That's Shelley.
Yeah, nice. I have no idea who was or wasn't. Whoever I would guess probably is. I don't know if Ravenna was or not. I didn't pay any attention. I just got the phone call and knew I was coming here anyway, so. And I knew you were gonna be close, because I didn't know that to be so. And Southeast was open because, and I heard that out on the road. That
Seems very similar.
So the water.
That's what we do.
Okay. So I didn't.
And it's free.
I get the phone call now and, you know, I don't have children, so I'm not gonna get to.
Hi, Jeff. I'm good, how are you? Good, good, good.
Good, how are you? It's going around, eh?
Yeah. There's too much on you guys. I'll look at this back there to see it. Did you guys bring that stand?
Yeah, they
Yeah, that's a good idea. I have two children.
You have one?
Oh, yeah. They're great.
If you want one, they're just called Table Talk. TableTalk.com, yeah.
Actually, it looks like an expansive program.
Yeah, if there's no table, which I've come to, I've had to use it at full level. So without a desk, works best when there's a desk, but it's not so sturdy when it's just the tire stand. And they have things like pop holders and notes and stuff, but I don't use any of that you can attach to it.
Well, shall we get started? First up, I want to thank you, all of you, for coming out on this cold, cold morning. Welcome to winter. Welcome back. So, I want to introduce Michael Palmer from Infinite Campus, and he has some guests with him this morning, and we're going to be talking about their software. So with that, Mike, I'll turn it over to you.
Terrific. Well, thanks, Dave, and thanks you guys for being here. We'll probably get some other people through the day or whatever, which is fine with us, and I understand we're broadcasting live on the internet, so that's always fun as well. How many were here the last time we were here to visit with us? So a little bit of familiar. You've seen now a lot of systems since that time or during that time. I have with me today two new people, or new for you guys, who've been with us for a long time, but Mike Piquet and Paula Souchere, and they're going to kind of come in and out during the day. They're kind of experts in different areas in the software, and we'll kind of walk through as we go to kind of really do kind of a deep dig today is what we're really kind of working through. I think with a small group like this, let's just open it up for additional questions as we kind of go through, and we'll try and get as many of those things answered for you as we can today. As far as an agenda goes, just to make sure we're all in the right meeting, we're going to get started here with a little bit of just a review, and then we're going to be working off of the submitted questions list for each of the different sections. So we'll kind of work through all those and show some other related things around those to kind of give you that bigger picture idea of how some of that stuff works. But one thing to note, we're going to kind of rearrange a little bit the front part of the day. We're going to do section 2 first, and then section 1 of your questions. Just for us, things flow a little better in terms of building how student registration works and then working into some of the day-to-day things. We're going to break. Are we still on a hard break at noon?
Yes.
For lunch, and that will be on your own, I understand. So we'll take about an hour for that time. And then we'll stick around in the afternoon. We're thinking this is kind of how it will go, but a lot of it will depend on your questions and how deep we need to get into things. So we're thinking we might be able to get those first 3 done this morning, and then we'll hop into the last one in the afternoon. But if we need to push around, we're here till tomorrow, so we've got plenty of time to do those things. Okay. All right. A couple quick things just as a reminder, or if there are some. Yes.
Real quick housekeeping. If anybody wants to see that that document Mike's referring to, we again have a shortened URL for that as normal. It's tiny.cc/spark and then the date 0107. So tiny.cc/spark0107. This information is also linked in directly on the SIS evaluation site that we've been using throughout this whole process. So if you were to instead have that bookmark or that link, I think Dave, you sent out a link to it yesterday as well. So if you check your email from yesterday, Dave sent out a link. On that SIS evaluation site, there's an Infinite Campus tab specifically with all the information we've received from them over the course of this. That as well has the link directly to the shared editable notes, and it has the link to the live video feeds, which will also then turn into recorded video feeds if later on you need to go back and catch something. So thank you for letting me interject that.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, we'll stay pretty close to those questions in that. So if you've got follow-up stuff as we're kind of going through, just go ahead and interrupt. We'll kind of help each other monitor questions and those things so we make sure we get all that. All right, so to kind of get our head back into who is Infinite Campus, because I know you guys have looked at a lot of different things. This is actually our headquarters in Blaine, Minnesota, which is just northeast of Minneapolis. It's a little whiter there, and it's actually colder there today than it is here. So it's balmy for these guys. Both came from Minneapolis.
In the news this morning, they said you don't close schools unless it's minus 45 degrees.
Yeah, well, we were just talking about it because I live in Michigan, and we have that kind of a rule that if it's a certain degree, you know, they won't make the kids stand at the bus stop, and they don't have that in Minnesota. So they're hardy there. Yeah. But Infinite Campus, as Infinite Campus, we're a privately owned company, so everything happens from here. We've got about 400 employees at this point serving our districts across the country, but everything happens here, and all we do is student information systems. We don't have other side ventures or those kind of things. We're privately owned, so we don't have shareholders or stockholders or those kind of things that we report to. We only report directly to our districts, to our all of our customers. To give you an idea in terms of where we are in the country, just kind of an overview heat map, we call this, but larger circles are larger districts, smaller circles are smaller districts, and we scale pretty well. We have tiny districts out in the middle of Montana of about 40 students. Currently, our largest single district in the country is Clark County, Nevada, which is Las Vegas, about 330,000 students in a single district. And then we've got districts all over the country kind of in between size of that. We actually do 5 or 6, 7 now full states. So like Kentucky, just south of us here, we see is filled in with a lot of circles. We actually do all the districts in the state of Kentucky, and we do the state of Kentucky as well. So the state runs our state version of our software, and then all of their state reporting, those things all happen real time in those states. So the 7th one that we just got is kind of actually off the map here. They haven't put it on. We just got awarded the state of Hawaii. So you can imagine in our office, it's cold, minus 20 degrees, and everybody wants to be part of that implementation. So, so it's exciting for us, I mean, as we continue to grow across the country. So you have a lot of company with Infinite Campus. Again, we talked a little bit about this last time as we walked through the stuff today. You know, our goal as a company in terms of a software developer is to really do everything that we do around these kinds of goals. And you'll see, and if you remember from the last time we were here talking about the software and how it's laid out, we really work on streamlining things, you know, taking advantage of the computer to work with wizards and do a lot of those day-to-day tasks that free teachers up or free staff up to be able to get back to working with students. So you'll see a lot of those kind of things. You'll hear us talk about promoting stakeholder collaboration, which is just a fancy way of saying let us work back and forth together easier. So if you use, as an example, our built-in special education, teachers could get students' accommodations directly from the Infinite Campus screen from their login rather than having to rely on a paper copy or going to a different office or those kind of things. Parents can subscribe to alerts to see information on their phones for attendance or other information from the school. And then our third thing is personalized education, and I think we talked a little bit about that last time, but the handout that I brought for you today is our new magazine. We publish this once a year, and this one talks a lot about what districts are calling now. We're talking a lot about LMS stuff. It's kind of the new thing. Are we using a separate LMS system? For us at Infinite Campus, we have all that stuff built into Infinite Campus. And you'll see some of that this afternoon, or later this morning, as we get into some of the assessments for teachers to be able to do that stuff online and tracking some of those things within Infinite Campus. But that magazine gives you a little bit more information about some of those things. Remember, with Infinite Campus, the big difference with us is we're one system. I know I have some technical people I remember from last time. We're full Microsoft SQL on the back side, full web browser on the front side, so we don't care what flavor of browser you use, or you've got a smartphone, we've got apps for Android and iOS and all those things. So it's pretty transparent in terms of that, but it's one district-wide database. So it really works towards efficiency of data. So as parents get entered into the system, as an example, mom only gets entered in one time, and then she's available for everyone within the district. So spellings are more efficient and more accurate. Addresses are handled better. Family management is better, those kind of things. Tech people don't have to push stuff back and forth to a separate grade book or a separate messenger system or a separate food service system if you're using all of those things that are built within the Infinite Campus family of products. Okay? And we'll talk more about some of that stuff as we go through the day-to-day. So hands we talked about. The other thing I like to point out in the handout is I included one sheet that's called District Edition that talks about all the things that are included in that core main system, one system that we talk about. But then people always like to have an idea of what are the other things that you have in there that we might have a third-party system for. Maybe we use Honeywell for our messenger system right now in our district, but I see you have voice with messenger with voice, so you could get rid of your Honeywell system and use the integrated system. And in a regional situation like this, there's all kinds of opportunities for mixing and matching based on what's best for your individual district and what the ITC would support in some of those things. And we're available. We can help you with questions and all of those kind of things as we go through that. So with that, if there are no questions or burning things to get started, I'm going to hand it over to, I think Paula is going to go first this morning. And like I say, go ahead and interrupt as we go. We'll answer questions in that as we work through the day.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to get started with the registration process in Infinite Campus. And the very first, oh, thank you.
Let's get this out.
Do you ever get hung up on the mouse that you use, and you know, some go really fast and some go really slow? Mike's is really fast, and I need a slower mouse. So we're going to switch mice. Registration process, and that is one of the questions in section 2, the very first one that you asked about the online registration process. So Campus does have a tool called online registration that works with Infinite Campus, and I'm going to show that to you in a variety of ways.
I'm getting mine closed, sorry.
Oh, thank you.
You're right.
Thank you. I knew I was going to have to switch. Oh, my mouse isn't working. There we go. All right. Online registration. A couple of questions. Are people using an online registration tool today that parents fill out their registration forms through the internet, through your websites? No? Okay.
We aren't, but we want to.
You want to. Excellent. Anybody here have a need for registration materials in other languages? Yep, you do. Okay. So with Campus Online Registration, it is a tool that will allow you to collect information in a variety of ways. So you have deployment options, and then you control those deployment options to meet your time frames. So an example of a deployment option is turning it on for your portal for existing families. So the beginning of the school year, how many of you send home information forms that you want updated or you want them to fill out with new emergency contact, any new immunizations, those kinds of things? Well, and then you collect them back in paper, and then somebody has to put them into the system. Well, you can turn on the registration materials for the portal. So parents who have a login can go in, will pre-populate forms based off of what they have, what you already have in Infinite Campus, and they can make corrections to those forms. the district would still process them, and we update the data automatically once you post and approve that application. You can turn it on your district website, so families moving into your community for the very first time can fill out registration materials based on the data that you need to collect, so that you can process that electronically, saving tons of data input time. We also have what's called a kiosk environment. So you could have a computer or a bank of computers available for people to come in and use who may not have computers at home, access to the internet. And when anybody is working with your online registration, they are not changing any core data in Campus. They are saving the data to a whole different set of tables, and only when you are done with it and you post it will it actually change the demographic data within Infinite Campus. So we don't have to do that manual data entry anymore. We can let the system do it, and it abides by the rules of Campus. Does that make sense? Okay, so, I have 15 minutes is what Michael gave me. So what I want to talk about is basically what do we get when people fill out these forms. What you're going to see now is basically the core tool. So everybody across the country starts with a core tool. And then every district has an opportunity to do or to request some customization in order to make the forms be what you need for your district. So you can have district logos on it. If you want to call it birth date versus date of birth, you can do those kinds of things. And so if you want to add additional forms, you can do that. It becomes a very nice tool for collecting the data the way that you need to collect it. But the better part is getting it back into Infinite Campus. So a couple of tools that are in Infinite Campus that everybody has that we use with Online Reg is the Letter Designer, which resides in our ad hoc reporting tools. When a district chooses to use online registration, you can use the ad hoc tools to create a series of letters or emails. So new families coming into the district can get these emails so that you can help them electronically with the process, the next steps, what's going to happen. And we do that automatically. So using the Letter Designer and a new family moving into the community, we can generate letters, send them information. When they submit the application, you can send them another email saying, thank you for submitting the application. When you approve, post, hold, or deny the application, you can send them another one explaining what happened to their application. So a great way to communicate with those new families in the process of enrolling or registering their students for school. Your parents, existing parents, don't get any of these emails because they're already part of your district, already part of Campus. They're really just giving you annual updates of their data. That makes sense? And the kiosk environment, because if they have to come into the district and fill forms out, you're there to assist them. They don't get anything either. Another nice feature of this, if I'm at home and I'm moving into a district and I'm filling out my paperwork and I hit something that I don't have at my fingertips, I can save my work, I can collect the data that I need, come back in the next day or the day after, and finish the registration. So it's not just a one-time sit and you're done. You have, over a period of time, you can complete those forms. We've also have a tool in our system administration called the Multi-Language Editor. And the multi-language editor that we have for online registration allows the district to do some of their own management of the product, which limits and minimizes development costs for a district. So what I mean by that is the program, of course, comes in English. And based on languages that you need to offer to your families, you can add those languages. So what that gives you power is in the literals area, this is all of the hard-coded text that's in online registration. And so if you don't like what the developers said or how they phrased something, by changing that translation column, when your parents log in, they're going to see the English content that you have in the translation column. So you can change verbiage. So everything that you're going to look at that's hard-coded, if you don't like it, you can take care of it. Does that make sense? We've also given the districts the ability then to add content a lot of districts wanted to be able to add PDF documents. So in every division or every pleat that you're going to see, we now give the districts the ability to include PDF documents. So there's a link. For more information, click this link and you can open up, maybe residency policies, medication policies, anything that you want to extend as a PDF document. Acceptable use technology policy for the district, add it as a PDF, and then becomes available to your families and your users. We also have connected, and you'll see this when I get in here in just a minute, the ability for upload documents. So in Infinite Campus, there is a tool called the Digital Repository. We've tied that into lots of different areas, teachers for assessments and sharing of homework and things, and we shared that with Online Reg. So if you want your families to upload utility bills, birth certificates, transcripts, and immunizations, we now can collect those forms electronically for you through online registration. Again, all things that we've built in so that school districts are more self-sufficient. And then we've added the ability for districts to add some HTML tags. So if you want to bold and underline and italicize parts of the program to call that out to your users, you now have the ability to do that. And that's all a part of just building up that online registration tool that you can then deploy. So in our census area, we have all of the results of what's happening with staff with the online registration. Lots of different ways to search for applications, lots of ways that you can keep track of what's out there. But once a family has done an application, you will have different users in the districts who will be able to see that information. So just looking at this list, I can see that there's some new people who have submitted applications. I can see that there's existing families who have that are working on updating their data. I can see the status of those applications, that this was approved and posted. So this is kind of a quick look at what's going on out there. As applications are started, you will be able to track those, and you can search for unsubmitted applications. How many are out there being worked on? Ways that you can control that. So when a brand new family comes into a district, when you are collecting those applications, that's interesting. It'll show you how many kids are in the family by looking at the information above. If it's a brand new family, there won't be any enrollment records. Now, one of the questions on here was, well, how do we know if somebody already exists within the district? When I review an application for a family, I have a review tab, and built into Infinite Campus are some searches for your database. So the first thing it does when a family fills the application out and they put their address in is it returns a list of addresses that are similar to the one that the family is typing in. It's telling me on this search that there's already an address ID. This is a family that came back into the district and filled out an application. Well, they already exist in your campus database, and you can see that information is called out to the processor in the application. So I know that if there's something in this database, when I use the linking process, it's going to show me anybody with the exact match or a Soundex match so that we're not adding kids multiple times. If you have students in Infinite Campus and they leave the district and they come back in, we want to always link those records together so that you keep all the immunization record, all the health information, all the assessment information, all those things that are part of a student's history within Infinite Campus. We don't add them again. We do not re-add them. So we've built in tools to help prevent the duplication of people who are already in your Infinite Campus database. Does that make sense? Okay. And I'm doing this from a processor's perspective for time. When a family goes online to fill out the forms as a new family, they will see the different areas that they will fill out. Now, if the sizing wasn't done by the projector, these arrows would all be in a single line. And families work through each of these areas to complete the application. So when I go through here, remember, this is the hard-coded text that you have the ability to change using that multi-language editor. It's also where you would then add your Spanish content, so families would be able to choose Spanish. So all of these things are manageable by the district. Required fields are a red asterisk. If you use Campus Messenger with voice, we bring in the contact preferences, so parents can choose those contact preferences. And parents work through this process. Again, here's where the ability to upload a file, and I can see that this family uploaded a utility bill so that I have that tied to them, proof of residency. Again, this is the processor, and I can see that we tied it to an address in the system. We can link address, we can search the database for addresses. This is your Infinite Campus database. There are the addresses that we do the smart search on to see if they exist. Parent guardian information, again, we collect parent guardian information. We can add content, so if you want to collect employment information, remember that's part of your customization. But these are the forms that your family would work through. Okay. Next is the emergency information. Every district manages the number of required emergency contacts. And we can collect contact information. Other households, great spot for preschoolers. How many preschoolers, I clicked the wrong button, sorry. How many preschoolers are there in the other household? Grandma and grandpa living in the other household. And then we get into the student information. So again, when we start enrolling our kids, how many kids, or what do you need to collect for new kids versus getting updated data in the portal? Remember, this is the core product, and you have that opportunity for customization. I'm just going to go tribal information, relationships, emergency contacts, health services, I don't have any in here, media release agreements, field trip information, and acceptable use technology. And remember, all of the data that's here is being stored in a different set of tables than your production tables. And only when they are approved and posted does it actually change your production table. And everybody who's processing it can do it right from this form. So if I'm ready to go through and I've done all my linking, when I go ahead and process the application and approve it, that's when it updates the core data. So you have your control over that. So looking at that first question, demonstrate online registration process with district-defined forms. Remember, this is the core product. Part of the customization is putting in those data elements that you need to collect. You also then need to decide where in campus they have to go in. We will give, there's a form that says these are all of the fields in Online Reg. Here's where they go into Infinite Campus. If you need that changed, we can do that. If you need to add data elements, where do you want us to put that back into Campus? So it becomes part of the production tables and everybody can see them. Questions? Yes.
If a student moves from one district to another within Infinite Campus, are you able to bring that information with them?
I hear two questions with that.
Okay.
And Mike, I'm not sure how I should answer that. With there's two things that you can do. When every district has their own database. So when districts move, when students move between districts, using the National Records Exchange, you can release data to get pulled into that next district. And then when that data comes in, there's PDFs, and then there's wizard tools. So an example is the immunizations is a wizard tool. The nurse can review it, and if she saves it, it'll update the data within your database. If it is the transcript file, it can be opened up by the counselor. They can do any corrections or modifications, save it, and it populates the transcript file for the student. So National Records Exchange will bring over records electronically, and all you have to do is just review it and then save it to your database. So, and then I don't know what they're using the state edition for, Mike, here, because I know they have a quasi one. Is that just to get the state numbers? How are they using that here in Ohio?
Yeah, it's to get state number.
Yeah, so there's also, you're gonna be able to do a student locator, which is searching to see if kids resided in another Ohio district, so that you can get some of that EMIS stuff over automatically. So kind of 2 ways to do that.
Follow-up question on that, is the National Records Exchange part of the base system?
Yep, everybody in the country can use that. National Records Exchange, you have to, it is protected, so districts opt in to use it. If you opt in to use it, then you're allowing people to say, gee, I need the records for this student. The district who gets that message can release the records, hold the records, or ignore the request. It's not like they just reach in and grab student data. But you can't use NRE if you don't sign up for other districts to be able to ask you for records electronically. So it's two-way.
Is that different than student feeder?
Yes, it's very different than student feeder. Yes. Good question on that. Yeah, very different than student feeder. Other questions? Okay, so online registration allows you to collect data for existing students, students moving into the community or returning to the community, and you have 3 different deployment options. You have your web district website. We can turn it on and off in the portal. We can also have a kiosk environment for families that may not have a technology within their homes. And then you have your processors who will approve and post those applications, and everything comes into Infinite Campus in real time, adds the people, the address, the phone numbers, creates their households. The only thing that you need to go in and do is give enrollment records to the students in that family. Okay? I think that's 15 minutes.
Yep.
Your turn.
All right. So, thanks, Paul. My name's Mike again. I'll be kind of taking over. We're looking at that section 2, so focusing on attendance, registration, and behavior. Something too that I thought I'll just throw in with the online registration that I get feedback with is there is a submit to batch. So if there weren't any changes on those update forms, such as medications, then I'm not going to go through and click every kid who just did our registration process. We're going to batch approve all of those unless there's been changes made. So there are tools for you to do that as well when you're looking at it. Just because that through my head, I was like, wait, that's going to take a really long time. But all right, so looking at the online registration process, we'll be logging in here. I'm going to show the portal briefly. And again, the portal is what Paul was referring to, where I might get a message sent to me, a communication from the district. Every student and every parent or guardian has a login for this campus portal. They have their own login information. And so what we see here, I'll go ahead and log in as a father in the district to give you guys an idea. And this ties right into our registration, attendance, and behavior. That's why I'm kind of starting here. The reason Mike and I like to do this is who's the biggest user group in your district? Parents, right? Parents and students. So with this, at least you get an idea, and I'm sure you saw a little bit of it, but at least a refresher of what the Infinite Campus portal looks like. Now, I log in, and I might have some different inbox messages here. So missing assignments messages that the teacher can automate through their gradebook to send any assignments that are marked missing automatically to those guardians of the students. We have something called the POS balance or the diversity fair. So surveys can be sent to parents, attendance reports if you want to, behavior reports, missing assignments. Those are all included in Infinite Campus in the core product. We call that part of our Infinite Campus messaging tools. Now, a lot of parents and a lot of students these days aren't logging in at a computer, they're using their phones. And when you look at this, and if there's time or interest, I'll plug in and show you guys how this app works. But what I can do as a parent or a student is subscribe to something called push notifications. So as a parent, I want to be notified if my son or daughter has an absence today, or any day. And so as they're marked in the system by the attendance clerk, which I'll show in a little bit, an alert will go right to your phone indicating that that son or daughter has had an absence for today. So as a parent, I subscribe to those push notifications if I want to. I don't have to, but if I want to be automatically alerted, I can do that. The same goes for attendance, behavior, missing assignments, grades. I can be notified based on what I want to subscribe to through the app, and that is Android and iOS. I'm currently messing around with the PC phone, but there's not enough demand yet for that. So what else can I do in the portal? Well, maybe I want to just take a look at the calendar. What's going on this month? It's a busy month. Any students in my household, Ryan or Dylan, with attendance issues are going to be highlighted, letting me drill in and look at that particular attendance issue. I didn't know he was tardy for English that day. Now, when Paula, or actually Mike, was talking about the ability for LMS, what he was talking about is through Infinite Campus, through our core instruction tools, we have LMS functionality. So what is that? Learning Management System functionality. Well, for example, if we look at this Mark Twain assignment, and if I were logged in as the student, I would be able to go in and submit all this information. But things like videos, assignment files, maybe the teacher wants them to be able to access a PowerPoint, access a video. This is a particular Mark Twain assignment where I'm supposed to watch this video, this PowerPoint, and then submit through Google Docs an essay. So if you're interested in that combination, the capability of connecting right to Google Drive if I want to, being able to submit my own documents as the teacher, my PowerPoints, my photos, anything like that, I have that functionality as well. So when schools ask us, you know, things like, do you work with Brain Honey? Do you work with Schoology? Do you work with Blackboard? Do you work with Moodle? Yes, we do. But I would ask that you look at the LMS tools that we include for free in Infinite Campus before maybe migrating all of that information over. So when we talk about functionality, discussion boards, attaching files, online assessments, students submitting work, real-time feedback, so discussion between the teacher and the student, all of that is in our base product, our core product, Campus Instruction. Yes, sir?
Is there other technologies, is there technology enhanced questions available, other sliders, rulers?
That is one of our shortcomings. When you're talking about online assessments, we're to say multiple choice, fill in the blank, essay, true, false, short answer. You can do photos, you can do that. We don't have the equation tools built into that functionality. That is something they are developing. That's some of the kickback we're getting from districts who are trying to use our online assessment to replace an existing one. Is we do lack in some of those areas. I can attach a scoring key to those assessments, which is nice. And by the way, I used to teach with Infinite Campus, so that's my background, is the teacher side. But you can attach a scoring key. So as a student submit work, I get a timestamp in my gradebook saying when they submitted it, and I can do something called fill from scoring guide or fill from scoring key. And then that will automatically grade all of those assessments for all of the students in my course, because we can attach scoring keys to everything but essays. So a little bit about that. Some more of the functionality from the portal is this concept of online payments. You know, we have a full fees module included in Infinite Campus. You can see here I'm a busy father. They're doing all right with their food service account. They have $2,200. I think they're going to make it through the month, hopefully. But we have Dylan here as a field trip transportation fee, and I'm overdue on a damaged book or lost book fine for Ryan, my younger son. So I could come in and I could pay for these, and I could go ahead and store a payment, and it's all done in real time. So if I need to email myself a receipt or print that, as soon as I were to go back to the online payments, what you'll notice is that I have the capability and it's gone. Students going off to the bus, Mom, I need more money, I don't want a peanut butter sandwich. They can sign in from their mobile device when they get to work from home, put the money in, and that money's there when the student arrives at school. We work with a partner, and what I like about ours is you're never going to have this credit card or checking information stored in Infinite Campus. We work through Vanco, V-A-N-C-O, and they're a Tier 1 compliant provider. So they work with Target and Kohl's and JCPenney's. But from the user side, this looks like it's right inside of Infinite Campus, doesn't it? I come in, I can put in payments, store all that, and process those right through. So that is what we consider a premium product. $150 one-time charge, so it's not very expensive to get set up. And then what you're starting to talk about is transaction fees that the credit card companies charge. So for any of you who are doing online payments currently, you know, maybe, for example, you don't see American Express here. Maybe we don't accept it because their finance charge is too great. So a little bit about that. And we also offer the ability for the convenience fee. So if I'm a district, I say, this is great. We don't have bounce checks. All the payments are coming in sooner. It's easier for processing, etc. Maybe we don't charge a convenience fee. We'll eat the cost as the district because we like it so much and it's working. Otherwise, we could say, no, every time they do a transaction, we want to do $1.50 or $3 or $2, and that would recoup those costs so it washes out. So we do provide you both of those options when you're looking at our online payment system.
Is there a cash component to it also?
There is for the full POS. So we have a full food service POS side, but not from here.
They could do electronic fund transfer.
Yep, checking, electronic funds transfer, savings account.
A quick question on the
Yes.
fees. If a student is on free reduced lunch, does it do prorating on that based on the percentages?
It does. It does.
Is it based on that it has to be in the system for reduced lunch before the fees are assigned, or does it work both ways?
Correct. It works both ways.
Okay.
So let me explain that. So the question was free and reduced application management, what we call FRAM. First of all, when I come in as a parent, I can apply for that right from here. We have the electronic signature. We have the ability for them to apply for free and reduced lunch based on their incomes. We provide the federal income guide every year, so it's our job to keep that up to date, not the schools.
Do you guys accept the state certification file that can be imported so they're pre-qualified?
Yes, we have a wizard for that too. Direct cert, import tools, exactly. So the question is, if I'm a reduced or a free student, is that recognized when I come through the lunch line? And it is. It charges the reimbursable rate, and it's all done within the core system. So for some of your state reporting and for food service and other reasons, we like to have the eligibility in Infinite Campus. And so if you're thinking that's a single system, as that student comes through, it reads off their PIN or their card, and it will know their eligibility and charge the correct rate for that. If there's changes, it's done in real time. Some of the feedback we get from districts who use our food service is that's one of the main reasons they chose us, is because of our free and reduced application management built into the system. It works really nicely because you're not moving data to a third-party food service tool or anything. It's all part of that single database.
Okay. Another layer to the fees question.
Sure.
Does it do prorating on when students are added into courses, withdrawn from courses?
There's a
couple. If
Oh,
there's like a
sorry.
workbook fee, you can charge the full amount versus a prorated.
Correct.
Are there features and stuff like that?
There are features set up like that. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no, that's okay.
I had too much coffee this morning.
I know.
I'm used to that central time zone. Yes, so you can do a couple things. You can say this student has to be enrolled in X number of days before a fee's charged. That's one option. You can do prorated or percentage fees based on the enrollment dates. Optional fees. So if you would like to come to summer school, here's a summer school registration fee, but it's an optional fee. So that's new. We came out with that within a year. But there are a lot of options like that. Yes. All of that information you can ad hoc or query. Give me all the students who have a delinquent fund. When you notice on my home screen as the parent, I rolled forward a POS balance. So automatic messaging, letting parents know that their food service account is low, automatically dialing them, emailing, texting, whatever method you choose to send those notifications. It's nice. Maybe we want to, every Friday, let them know if they're less than $20 in their food service account or something.
I like your message.
Yeah,
We
thank
offer
you.
filet mignon, salad, dessert.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and enjoy that for sure.
And one more
Sure.
layer. Do you have the option of family caps because you guys have the
Yes.
household? You can set like a
Correct.
pay-to-play family cap.
Correct. Yep, and individual. So we have that maximum that can be set as a household, and then you could say certain fees are exempt from that. We don't care if you've met the cap; you still have to pay this fee because of whatever reason. Yeah. Good questions. You can tell this isn't the first vendor you guys have been in here for. So I'll get out of the list a couple just quick highlights, and then we'll move on to more attendance and behavior functions. At any time, I can switch, to Spanish if I want to. You can see how it changes all of the information that's written from the Infinite Campus side. We have Chinese and simplified Chinese, and there's other languages available. If I were to just drill down to a student, let's take Dylan for example. Each school chooses the information that they wish to release. So, for example, do we want to have attendance data, since we're kind of talking about attendance? This gives you an idea of what the parents would see. I have it broken down. I can look at it by course, period, day, or term if I want to. We have it color-coded as well. Now, maybe we want behavior at the high school and we don't want it at the elementary school. What fields do you want to include? We have date, time, event, the role of the student. If you're using demerits or points, we can have the response and the resolution in here as well. This isn't posted until somebody has said that this is a complete behavior task, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, but we don't want, as soon as a teacher submits a referral, to have this pop out on the portal in real time. So that's That's what it prevents. It has to have a behavior admin go in, review it, mark it complete, and then that information is pushed. So I'm sure you guys looked at a lot of this. I won't go too much into it. Academic planning tools built right in. We have the graduation progress. Let me show you one quick highlight here, though, because we'll talk about scheduling, and there's probably some folks who work with scheduling in the system. We always have had the ability for students to request electives courses from the portal. That's something that we've done for a long time. I come in as a student, I see what my required courses are, and maybe my directions are to request 3 electives in an alternate, for example. So this is something we've always done. This flows directly into our schedule building tool, gives you your staffing numbers so you know how many sections you're looking at having. All of that stuff I'll talk about with scheduling. Something we do relatively new this year is this idea of an academic plan. You can have unlimited plans. So what's it take for a student to graduate with honors? What's the standard diploma? What are those criteria? Now it will look, and you can see some of the requirements coming from the East Coast are that schools have to have 4 years of requests put in, similar to a college or a major that they're working towards. So some of our states have to do this. But the idea is we can put in multiple years of requests. And as a student or a guardian, I'm not able to click in here and take a course unless I've met that prerequisite. When I click here, these are the courses that A, satisfy my mathematics requirements, and B, I've met those requirements to be able to take these courses. And so with a really nice planning tool, you can have the parents come in and sign off on it, hit save. Then we have a tool that takes all of these courses, creates them as requests, and loads them into the system. So it's really taken a lot away from that, give me the list of all of your courses, I'm going to type them in. A lot of that goes away if you would like to roll this out eventually. Or maybe you want to just start with just the course registration. That would be an option too. Anything that folks see on this side, grades, attendance, schedule, behavior.
What's on the to-do list?
To-do list is a good one. Well, it depends if you're a student or a parent asking that. If we have a student one, Ryan doesn't have any upcoming assignments because I haven't done that. But if we look from the family view to-do list, it'll pull in, and our friend Dylan has a couple of assignments. So he's got an assignment on February 1st due in 17 days, and this comes right from the teacher's gradebook. The due date is a required field for the teacher to add an assignment, and that's all this information. 90 days, I probably won't accept this anymore, but you can see how it goes in red when it's overdue in the system. That's what the to-do list does. Again, options you can turn on or off depending on if it fits your school's policy and you would like to use them. Any reports, schedules, IEPs, RTI plans, transcripts can be published out to the portal for them to access it. I call in, hey, I forgot my student schedule, can you send me one, or can I come in? Well, maybe you can just jump in under reports, you'll see something called student schedule where they can save it or print it off from their house. So any of those types of forms that you would want to make available to parents, guardians, you can do as well. So my point is it's a lot more than just a place to look at grades and attendance. It's really giving the guardians and parents a lot more tools, allowing them to do what they need to. Some of you might be like, why is there pet information there? You can do customization screens too. So if you want to track data that's not in any of our core information, such as you would never really track pet information, but then you want to have drop downs or a text field or text boxes, you can have that information so it's available to the people in your district. Yes, sir.
When you roll this out to districts, do they all jump in with all this stuff, or?
I would say, well, I used to be a trainer, so I was an implementation trainer. I'd go out to districts and help them get up and running. As soon as you are live, as soon as you have your production URL, the portal is ready. It's already going to be created in there. It's when do we want to give parents and students that information to log in. So what we typically see is maybe a semester in, then they open up the idea for the portal, a couple weeks for teachers to get comfortable with the grade book because everything is real time right from that grade book. By the second year, you're seeing a lot of the core information. Probably a lot of this, maybe not the graduation academic planner, maybe not the requests, but you would see the core functions of grades and attendance and things. So it would be up to you guys when you feel comfortable releasing that info. But we have to get those parents or guardians to the website, and we've already given them a one-time login, which forces them to do a password change. So a lot of that kind of maintenance, whereas a student forgets their account, they can set up reminders that we've all done online before. A lot of that doesn't fall on the school districts then, the portal account management. So that is the portal. If you, any time throughout the day, if you hear me referring to the portal, that's what I'm referring to. We will talk about communications, especially as we touch on attendance and behavior. We offer Campus Messenger with Voice as a premium product. Mike probably included a quote for you guys. That's one of the premium products. That's basically saying you have inbox and email messaging included, but we want to use voice and text. It's basically allowing all of the communications to be delivered through a phone dialing system. And we can talk about that a little bit more. But my point for bringing that up is you can actually have parents opt into text messaging. Yes, I would love to receive text messages. I can't get phone calls at work anymore. My boss is on my case, so it can only be an emergency. And I would like to receive those in Spanish as my preferred language. So that idea of everything coming from the same database, not using a third-party voice dialing system, is a big deal with that integration into the portal. So that's the portal. Just kind of wanted to do kind of a quick review, refresher. I know you guys have looked at a lot of different vendors, and they probably blend together, especially over December, January when it's busy. So, sticking more with the registration, attendance, and behavior, I'm going to log in here. I'll be logging in as an administrator, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how Infinite Campus works, how do I navigate some of the basic functions, and then explore those questions. You log into a home screen, you can log in from any school, from any place that has internet access, right? I have the ability, I'm logged in as Paula Susha right here, which is Paula right there. We have the different schools that I have access to. So for the tech folks in this room, we have calendar rights and then we have tool rights. The calendar rights are where can I do this, what data, what schools can I access, and the tool rights are what tools or functions am I able to perform there. So what I'm saying is, since it's a single district-wide database, if you're somebody who needs to pull in a longitudinal report, I want to see how my assessment scores have done and who those teachers were for those students over the last 3 years. I can be given access to district-wide, so I'd have all schools. And depending on my user rights, I might have all years of data as well with the same login. So I can navigate to another school. It's not just the high school that I'm working at. If I need to update information for a sibling or need to do something for an elementary student, I can do that right from my one login. A lot of vendors will say that they do that. Make sure to ask if you can modify or edit data in those other areas because they can't. And so one of the reasons that I like that is because if you're working at multiple schools, I was a teacher at multiple schools, I had one login, but I was able to access all of that information from the schools that I worked in the district. And so I think that's a differentiator from us in the competition. Now, I'm going to stay in the high school for now. We'll stay in the 14-15 school year, and I'll minimize that. We have 3 tabs. The index, which these are all of your tool rights, and I'll be going over a lot of these today. Now keep in mind, signing in as Paula, I'm somebody who's what's called a power user, right? So if I'm in the front office, I'll probably have student information, maybe attendance, health, and maybe fees. I wouldn't have Fram, Messenger, point of sale, ad hoc. I wouldn't have all of those. So don't think that it's just way too overloading. I did want to log in with one user so I can bounce around a lot and show you all of the tools though. What do we need to do? We always have to need to search for a student first if we want to pull up data. So we have our search tab. Last name, first name, initials. You have advanced search, give me all of the 9th grade males. You have ad hoc filters or queries that I'll talk about later where at-risk students, 504 students, students with behavior plans. That's kind of the idea between our filters. So we're going to work with our student Dylan Abeg here. When I click on that student, it brings you to what we call student information tabs. This is probably where 70% of what you need to do can be done. Print a schedule, print a transcript, modify a behavior event, add an attendance event. I can do all of that from this level. We have the name Dylan. We see that there's a legal custody issue. I'll probably want to hover over and get that information. And he has a health condition. So when I come up here and I say, well, what is the legal issue? I can see that that's a restricted release. Maybe he's not to be released to mother or father or something like that. And then he also has diabetes, and the insulin needle is in his health locker and at the health office. So when you're navigating around here, it's point and click. If I need a quick person summary report with a picture, everything in Campus opens as a PDF, which I like, because then you can choose to print it, email it, or save it. You don't automatically have to pull it up before you can see how that report looks. And so at the most basic level of reporting, I would say are the student tabs, where I can click on attendance. And since we're talking about attendance, I can see all of the attendance events that have been entered. When somebody enters those, I see who did it and when, which is nice for auditing purposes. All I have to do from this screen is I didn't know he was marked absent that day. I want a period detail report. I can do it right from here. It again opens up as a PDF where I can have a nice attendance summary report right from this tab if I need to. Some of the other tabs that I can go to, maybe I want to look at behavior for Dylan. Again, dependent on my rights, I have the ability to look at that information by the year. He has quite the rap sheet. In 14-15, he's had 5 behavior incidences, but I can look back, he had 12 in 13-14 and 1 in 12-13. I will go over this whole concept of behavior management, but just know that from that individual tab, I can see that with this exclamation point, that student had an active IEP during this behavior event, and I'm missing a behavior response. I can click into that incident and get a little bit more details, but I will fully cover the behavior here in just a few minutes. Does this help, though, for the navigation? I just want to make sure people are comfortable with that concept. Any tabs I should have access to, like pet information we were joking about, here's an example of a custom tab. RTI tabs, fees, it really just depends on your role in the school, in the district, what information would you need to be able to see. So some teachers will say, you know, it's nice to have the current year behavior, and I would also like access to their assessment scores. So it really can go and let you decide which tabs certain user groups should be able to have access to. Questions so far from anyone? All right. So this is your demo. Make sure if I'm going too fast or missing something that somebody lets me know. We're going to take a look at attendance function. Do I have my attendance folks in here? A couple of them who would help out with attendance? Maybe I'll go a little faster through that area then. So what's it look like a day in Infinite Campus attendance? First thing I would do is I would go to our attendance tools and I would say, let's make sure everybody has taken attendance for today. So there's a tool here called the Classroom Monitor. Green means those teachers have submitted the attendance. Red means they have not. So our teachers aren't doing very good for first period. Only Rebecca Andrews has submitted attendance for that day. It's a nice tool that lets you see in real time as they're submitting it, because maybe we need to make sure all our homeroom attendance is taken before our dialing, our attendance caller starts dialing out. Now another purpose for this is I'm a sub, or I'm at the front office and Mr. Adams has a substitute today. I'm going to jump in and I'm going to go ahead and submit that attendance for him right like that. So it's nice and quick, and I didn't have to log in as that teacher, and I was able to submit that. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, is make sure attendance is taken care of. Then what I might do is go to the daily attendance tool, and this is where you have all of the different attendance events and their codes entered in for the day. What's going on today? Well, a couple kids out absent, unknown. We have a homebound student who's excused and a student in school suspension, and a couple of tardies. So again, if I needed to do a modification, like Peyton's mom just called me, he's going to be out sick all day today, I can say that student is out ill, fill down, and save, and I can access all of my attendance events and issues right from this one screen. So Yes, sir.
With respect to any way to provide a temporary limited role for someone to take attendance for a teacher?
Yes. Yep. Maybe we want to have a generic sub-account where all they can do is attendance and read only in the grade book. Yep, something like that. Student teachers, that's a big one. You can put an expiration date on it. So as soon as, if you happen to forget about that account, it'll expire when they leave. So definitely. Yep, no problem. Good questions.
When you just did that, was there a spot to put a comment?
There is a spot to put a comment. Yep. And then you decide at the school level, do we want those comments displayed on the portal or not? Maybe not. That would be up to you guys. Or canned comments only. That would be another option.
Was there a time arrived and time dismissed option?
There is. Yep. And actually what I'm going to right now would be one way that I could enter that. So you have your daily mode, students who are out sick or excused all day. Your period mode. Your batch, meaning they're gone for a group of days, or a bunch of students are gone for multiple days. Then you have your check-in and check-out. And so in the background, we have minutes going in the system that are tied to your bell schedules. Some of our states actually do minute-based attendance, like Kentucky, and so that if a student's present for 17 minutes, we get 17 minutes of funding. So you could imagine how much of a nightmare that could be. And then you have California, where if they show intent to go to school, you get the full day's credit. I saw him in the parking lot. He was starting to walk towards the school. So it's all over the board in the country. But to answer your question, the reason we do that is the check-in, check-out function is able to keep those times, and then for your guys' state reporting, it transfers those into half or full days.
Sometimes in our middle schools, we have two different bell schedules, where 6th and 7th grade will start at one point and then another, so the equivalent of the periods or the minutes can be different.
Mm-hmm.
Can that be, but they still need to equate it to a daily?
Sure.
Can that be done?
That can be done. You could do multiple bell schedules. You could do something, when I come up here and I click on Campus High School, let me say, for example, I want to go to the elementary. Maybe it's this one. See how I have the schedule drop down? So maybe your 1 through 5 is different than your kindergartens or something. So you can
And
have.
that's referring to the bell schedule.
Correct. Yeah. So you have a couple of different options there. Is everything working all right?
I lost your
Oh, you lost
connection
me?
for a second there.
Oh, the
I think
Wi-Fi
the
dropped out.
Wi-Fi dropped out.
Just go into public.
Yep. Yeah.
There we go. Is that on a timer, you think?
I don't
Your
even
card
know.
could be a time
Buddy
of your
Fritz.
network's card.
There's us.
Just go ahead. Share.
And then I will be taking a break in between these sections too, in just probably 15 to 20 minutes to make sure you guys get a little break in the day. Any other questions while that's loading? Any attendance-related questions?
Looking at that search, I'm just assuming you could search on a course and section, like if all the bands want to be out,
Mm-hmm.
and then mark which ones that are out.
One thing that's, yes, you can do that. And so let's say, for example, we want to do a period, and now I'm going to talk about these ad hoc filters, but let's say you guys are big into football. The campus football team is going for an away game, and they're going to miss 7th period. So I can take that football team or late bus or whatever criteria, search for them, take the whole football team and say that they are going to be absent 7th period with a school activity, and maybe I want to write something like away game or something, save it, and now I just saved the whole football team as an excused absence from 7th period, and now as the teacher of that class, that's real time, so when I'm taking my attendance, I see those codes and comments.
Behind the scenes, just that you don't have to show it, but can you say whether the codes count as an absent and unexcused? I noticed your coloring.
Absolutely.
And then some, can they just be codes that you collect information on but not actually report to the state?
Yep. So, yep, and just to sum that up, you have your local codes, whatever you want them to be. The ones that need to be crosswalked to the state codes would be, and then you can have some that don't equate to any sort of attendance at all. Okay. So it's a local, something that I just want to indicate it, but I don't want to impact their attendance. Okay. Mm-hmm. Good. So that is the attendance mode. Again, if I need to do a daily, it's a busy day. Hit search. These 7 students have called into the office. I can just click them here or search for them. And they are all going to be absent, ill, and save, and so I now saved, all of those students. So you kind of get the idea of that attendance wizard and what it does. Now, the general layout for Campus is we have the individual tabs on the student that we already looked at, and you have the modules we refer to these as, and I've opened up the attendance module. So that's where you're going to find your tools, your attendance letters, your messenger, your attendance wizard, your classroom monitor, your daily attendance. And under each one of these modules, you're always going to find all our canned reports. So if you're looking for an attendance report, open it up. There's my ADM, ADA. A couple of the questions in here we're referring to, I need to find all the students who have X number of period absences or 0 absences, so my perfect attendance reports. Those all can be in here by period count. Give me all of the in-school suspensions that have been this month, for example. So it gives you that criteria to search on your local codes, or give me everybody who has at least 3 absences, and they need to be unexcused, for example. So a lot of those types of reports that you're looking for to pull data in. Sub-attendance roster. Who's changed any of the attendance entries, which is nice. You need to go back and audit something or look at who's modified attendance data. Day counts. At the bottom of a lot of these, it says provide a list of all the reports, and there's hundreds. So what we're working on is emailing you canned examples of all of them rather than me going through every report today, if that's okay. But just know that we are aware that we have to supply these types of reports. Let's see. Letters. I saw letters was in there a couple of times, and I think I can address those questions now. You can create an unlimited amount of letters. Attendance letters, we have behavior, we have health. We have these letter tools that Paula showed at the beginning. So let's say that we're going to take a look at this 3 unexcused absences. Now, what I believe is nice about this is how flexible it is. For example, we have a status of absent, an excuse, and a wait. You have a trigger criteria for what they get that letter for. So if this letter was specifically for students who have had 3 unexcused days of absence, I would say that absent, unexcused is worth 1, and my trigger criteria is 3. But this also lets you throw in tardies. Maybe they get this letter if they've had 5 tardies. Or if they've had 2 that have been excused absence, they can get this letter. So it really lets you look at it by the year. That's what most schools do. You can do it by the term. A few districts in Ohio do that. By course or by course end term. So you can say, what are you looking for these students to get this letter generated for them? And within the letters, you'll see that you can do images and logos. You have the ability to pull fields in. So if any of you have worked with like a Microsoft Mail Merge or anything similar to that, it's not going to be a generic letter. It's going to say your student, Dylan Abeg, has had blah, 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 blah. And you can also include a period mark summary or these different summary reports right in that letter. So that's nice to be able to say the letters. It is his or her, so it would say it is his responsibility to contact the detention. Those all come right from this area where within that letter, not only am I telling the parents why they're receiving this, but I can also give them a breakdown of all of the attendance on that letter. We can send these via email. We can send these paper. We have all of the mailing label tools, so if you want to do mailing labels or if you do the tri-fold envelopes that have a window, we support that as well. Maybe we just phone call these and use our dialing tools instead. There's a lot of options to get those communications out regarding attendance. Questions about that? Did I do an okay job explaining how those are generated? It will only run it one time, so if Paula meets this criteria today and I run them again tomorrow, it's not going to pick Paula up and I'm going to have to exclude her. It's going to know that there was already one generated for Paula and it won't generate another one.
If you needed to reset it because you ran them and there's a typo in the letter or something like that, can you clear out Paula, regenerate so that she would get one?
Yes, you can.
Because you generated it, but didn't really set it. Okay.
Yes, you can. And a lot of schools will do a document tab that has letters sent. So it's their own way for tracking where they mailed out what the date was, things like that, for more of a tracking tool.
And that's all coming out in Canvas.
Mm-hmm.
It's being rewritten. All the tracking of letters is in the process of being rewritten So that's all gonna be managed for you now, so you'll know what letters were printed.
So you don't have to do it manually, it'll do it for you.
It's
Just like our dialer would.
very cool. Yeah.
That is nice. I actually didn't know that.
I saw the prototype.
Good.
It's really cool.
Good.
Yeah, that's good, so it's a byproduct of.
Right, whenever you generate a letter, whether it's behavior, whether it's a point of sale, whether it's an attendance, it will now have a new tracking system built into Canvas that you'll be able to track that, manage it, resend it, choose not to send it before you print it. Because it'll give you a list of all the recipients, so total rewrite of how it's gonna manage letters.
The other thing I'll point out with attendance and see if there's any questions is, I'm still in the attendance module just to show you where I am. I clicked attendance messenger. Now with this would be the premium, but notice I can say I want to do inbox email, and with messenger with voice enabled, now we're able to do voice and text as well. So if you don't purchase it, you'll still have this option, it'll just be inbox and email. The idea being, we come down, we write the text-to-speech area. Maybe we'd rather it be the principal's voice. We can have a human voice do it rather than the text-to-speech. You can copy it down to the text message. You can include email attachments. So if you are using our emails, you would like to send out a report with it or something, you can do that. And then your dialing window and everything you see there. So the idea being, we create these and then we schedule them based on when do we need those calls to go out. We're going to have this period absent unknown daily call go out at 8:15 every morning daily, automatically scan the system, look for that absent, then deliver those phone messages. You guys using something for your attendance dialing currently, like a school messenger or Honeywell, or so you're used to these types of things? Okay. Any attendance questions? Teacher attendance I'll show after lunch, but I can do it now if folks want me to. I missed anything, Mike, from the attendance area?
No, from attendance.
Let's talk about behavior, and then I'll probably be able to break at 10:30 in 15 minutes, give you guys a stretch here. So how does behavior work in Infinite Campus? Again, it's up to the schools if they want to use all of the tools that I'm going to show you, but typically what would happen is I would go in and we have this behavior module where we have the behavior management, the referral, letters, and messaging tools, and detention tracker. Typically what happens is a teacher or another staff member will submit a behavior referral. I'll come in, I'll be able to put in this information, and you'll notice over on the right it notifies certain individuals of this. So the process is I submit a behavior referral for a student in my class. The behavior admin receive an email and an inbox message right at the bottom of my campus screen letting me know of that behavior event. So I come in, I'm a behavior admin. I go to this behavior management tool, and these are the ones that have been submitted. And I take a look at one of these behavior events to review it. Come down here, and I can see that Mr. Grau witnessed the two students start push each other, followed by punches thrown during school hours. Again, you guys can customize these fields. If you want that to be a default field, if you want that to be a required field, so they have to fill it out, you can do things like that through our attribute dictionary. There were definitely some questions in there about that. I come in, I say, I don't know who Dylan is. I haven't had this student before. I can review the participants. Right from here, I say, oh, I know Dylan, and I have the contact info should I need to reach out to those parents. So again, I'm not navigating around looking for this. It's just right in my behavior functions. I come in and I say, you know, I have the resolution. This student, these are both students who are offenders. I want to add a resolution. Your local resolution types, detention, out-of-school suspension, letter home, conference, whatever those you want are crosswalked to the state codes for EMIS reporting. I'll show you what I mean by that. But let's say for now the student has out-of-school suspension. It can actually tie in an attendance to those students based off of the resolution start and end times, which is nice. So if a student suspended Thursday and Friday this week, I can put that information in, and then it will automatically fill in the attendance for when that student's gone. Maybe for you guys that's an excused discipline absence or an unexcused discipline absence based on your policy. Now, a couple of comments we've had from from folks who really like this is you add the incident once, right? The incident is fighting with students during school hours. I'm not going to go to every student and add this behavior event onto their tab. I'm going to do the event one time, and then I'm going to come down below to add event participant. And I can just search for those students and say, well, it's his younger brother, Ryan. Last name, there he is. I'm attaching him to it. I don't want that displayed on the portal. Save it. And now I've attached multiple students to this incident. So it's an event-centric system, is really what that means. I come into one area, I make this event, and then I attach all the students to it. I mark that complete. If we just, right here, status no longer in progress, it's complete, save it. It's going to yell at me. Now, if we've chosen to have that information on the portal, it's displayed on the portal, which we looked at earlier. Does that make sense? The workflow, referral submitted, automatically notifies the admin, they come in, review the incident, and process it, and then it's done. Now, there's a lot of other neat functions like a detention tracker. So all of the students with ongoing detention show here, it's constantly tracking the hours served. I come in and maybe I'm the person responsible for the detention room at the end of the day, and I say that everybody was here 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Everybody but our friend Abram, fill empty, and submit. So you have that kind of nice tracking tool that has an ongoing detention tracker. It's also displayed on the behavior tab if I ever wanted to look at that. What are some other neat functions? We already talked about letters, so I won't go too much into this, but if you want to have a in-school suspension notice sent out for everybody who has that resolution of in-school suspension. Or maybe what's better is you have the dialing, and you have an automatic notification for all the students who have in-school suspension, where it will call the parents with the text-to-speech message. This is to notify you, Dylan Abig has been placed on in-school suspension. Here's why. And I can talk about that. So lots of schools will have that, deliver an automated message if there is something that happens. Those can be scheduled hourly to run. Look for anybody who has that certain resolution or event type and then deliver that message. Referrals, management, admin, and reports. Just like the other areas, a lot of canned reports. We have the Infinite Campus canned reports, like give me all the X incidents that happened this week. Show me all the students who had in-school suspension this month. Those types of messages. But then we also have the ability through Tableau, and I don't know if Shelly and Mike talked about this last time they were out here, but they did. Okay, so data warehousing we work with. So if you need more complicated, like I want to look at the student event dashboard, and I want to see all of the behavior events that have been entered, but maybe I'm interested just in the high school and a certain gender. This is using the data warehouse functionality in Campus, and will update in real time. So if I say just show me the males, see it's updating right now, and I can see my student event totals here on the left-hand side. Or maybe I'd rather click on the behavior dashboard and be able to look at this information, but I want to look at those students who are not special ed. So it's a really nice tool. You can always get the underlying detail. It sounds like they talked about this, but it includes something like 400 templates that are created, so it's just plug in. For the tech staffing here, we are ODBC. You can use Prism reporting. We include Microsoft reporting services. You could use a premium product like Tableau. Any of those would work. But we do provide you the data warehouse. So every night we want to flatten all these files and just send this refresh information to the data warehouse. And what that allows you to do is have this static warehouse where if you want to do complicated reports or something like that, you can pull from that data instead of the live data right out of the system. If it doesn't need to be live and it can be from last night at midnight, then that's the type of stuff you can do within the system. You'll notice when I talk about ad hoc reporting in a little bit, whenever I want to do a query of data, it will always ask me, do I want this information to be live, or do I want sorry for everybody in the back, it's at the bottom of the screen, but I can say live or from the last data warehouse refresh. And that's for any of our reports, which is a pretty nice function, I think. So that was rather quick, but his behavior, do people feel all right with the behavior tools? Messaging, letters, behavior referral. Again, I can always go to a student, click the general tabs. It remembers who you were on last, which is pretty slick. Click on that behavior tab, and I'm brought to that information. What we just kind of looked at through the behavior management tool. Behavior response is typically used if I have to have physical contact with that student. In the system, you'll say certain behavior events require a behavior response. So, what are some of those different things? Well, when we look at the behavior responses, I would be able to come in and click that information. Sorry. It's only on those that are included. There we go. So what's the response type? Physical restraint is mainly the big one that districts want to be able to track. What are the actions? What are the details? Who was involved in that incident? And you can pull staff members in as witnesses or as people who were involved in the behavior restraint. You may have noticed when I said add event or participant, I had the capability of students, but we can also do school employees or all people. All right.
So if you chose one of the events with weapons or whatever, you could track
Exactly.
that if law enforcement had to be called.
Yep, and that's required for EMIS reporting on some of those. So that's nice that if it is an incident that requires it, it'll force you to enter that data in. It'll be a required field. All right. So that's behavior. If you think of anything else later on, we can always talk about it. Let me go back to my home screen here. Behavior, attendance, registration. Anything, oh, so I guess I should show this quickly too. What happens if we're not using online registration, right? I'm sitting at my desk. Do you guys have central enrollment? Do all new families go to a certain place or do they go to their site?
Some districts do.
Some do and some don't. Okay. Well, you can work it either way with campus depending on how you want to give those tool rights out. But what I would say is I'd go to student info and we'd have a tool called Student Locator, and this is what Paula was talking about. This is the tool that will not only look in your current district, but it will look at everybody who's participating in the nation who's an Infinite Campus customer. This was for your question. If I come in and I say I'm looking for this Dylan Abig, notice I'm not able to create a new student until it forces me to. And that's a good thing to stop duplication of data. It's saying make sure the student has never been enrolled. Sure, they told you I was saying Ohio, since we're especially in Ohio, only handle information once. So if a student was enrolled in kindergarten, left for years, and came back, I'm still not going to input that information. They're still in the system. So rather than create a new one, I'll have that information show up in my search. That makes sense to everybody, that concept of, okay. So at the phonetic search, it said you have 100% match on this student. Go review that, give them a new enrollment. If it's 67% match because the spelling is different on this student's last name. If neither of those students are accurate, create new student, I can go right there and add an enrollment for that student. So it's a nice process. Let's say that I'm putting myself in the system. Dylan Paquet. Search. I must have done that a million times apparently. By Dylan Peterson. All right. Create that student. This is if I don't have a match. If I did have a match, all I would do is send a request for them to do what's called release their records. What happens is that person at the school who has tools for that gets an inbox message that says, Southwest City Schools requests that you release Dylan's information. They can approve it and release that info. They can deny it. They can deny it with a reason. They approve it, I get a message back saying it's been released, and there's where my wizards are, my import wizards for immunizations, transcripts, special ed data, enrollment history, etc. So it's a huge time saver. Yes, ma'am.
Just a clarification on the terminology.
Sure.
What releases it? Does it keep a copy at the original district and then?
Correct. Yep. Yep. And it even warns them, says you haven't end dated this student yet. If they really are leaving, you should provide an end date for that
Do
student.
you have to? Are you required to provide an end date because students can be enrolled in two?
No, you're not. Okay. No, it can be a warn, like a little pop-up warning. It can be nothing.
Yes, sir.
Is there an administrator app for like the behavior thing?
There isn't. That is next on the list. There is a teacher app that called Instruction, which I'll show. And that's what's being next is they're calling it the Principal app. But it's going to be a neat tool that should be out this summer. So depending on when you guys are looking at going live. But right now it's only app that's created for the parents and students and then for teachers. All right. So here we've created a new student. Required fields, again, you guys can say what's required for you to move on. So you have the ability to say we really want to collect middle names. So I could make this name required, for example. But what I do is I tell the system to generate a student number, unless you guys have your own numbering schemes that you follow. I put in a birthday. I can touch that calendar. I can put in 6 digits. The student is so now I have my race, ethnicity for state and federal. We say that this student is going to be a 10th grader. It's small for you on the back. I apologize. It's giving me a start date, which I'm going to say they're starting Friday the 9th. Save. And I just created a student and a student enrollment in one stop. Now that kid's ready to be scheduled. That's everything. So it is a pretty slick process. Online registration is best, especially for districts that are large like you, but you don't have to use it. Does that make sense, everybody? I search, make sure that student doesn't exist, I add them and an enrollment in one spot, hit save. Now I can put in requests if we wanted to go, and I'll talk about scheduling, but if we want to go to requests and walk in scheduler, I'd be ready to go, start putting that student into classes.
I forget from the last time.
Sure.
Are there what we call registration defaults, where you have common values, the majority of your students, and then you just change exceptions, like they're all white, or
yes.
IRNs?
Mm-hmm. Not in every field, but in a lot there's those. Yeah. So the majority of students would have this filled in. And there's warnings. If you're making a student 12 years old and trying to make them be a 10th grader, or enrolling them in a wrong grade for the school, there's a lot of those kind of error checks as well. So I promised you guys a break. Any questions from section 2 that I missed, Mike, that you noticed?
On my checklist.
Anything else regarding behavior, attendance, or registration? All right. How about 10 minutes? 10 minutes works for everybody. Let's start again at 10:40 then, and we'll keep going. Thank you. Do I need to do anything up here or just let it? Yeah. Okay. We're all set still. So next we said that we're going to go into
I can look, I'll try that right now, but I'm in the Dazzle. Yeah, I was like, get it to Dazzle. Right. Okay. All right, thank you. Yeah.
They keep actually do call you every time they get an email message. And I don't know who it is. I can't figure out. I can't figure out. I don't know where. I don't know where.
No, it's not mine because I found mine down.
That's right. You know.
Oh, no, mine's not.
They don't know.
Well, so I have my file over here.
I sent you.
Oh.
I read like down here.
So I didn't get it.
Technology
There was a fair.
I know, it's like the littlest thing, it's like driving me crazy. It's like about ready to. Stop that, stop it. Right now.
We did that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I couldn't until you did that, but.
I didn't know that. Some email were talking. About this, about the email Terry at Moostown. That'd be great.
Our numbers are.
Well, so that, with the people that I have this year, things are great. For council, we can.
Well, they had the option, because they're ready to
The next thing I have on my agenda is,
Get the right color on today.
Oh, the paper pencil still considered the.
So I have that. Last time around,
That will totally be phased out.
Don't worry about it being hot. It's hot in here. This is over here. You think that would have been about they were off.
Well, I'm thinking of doing section 1. So that you saw that. So every I'll just go through stuff until there's no questions and then maybe pass it. Okay. So we do it for He and I have a philosophical difference. But the problem is if you make the change in that, it should still max populated.
Yeah, get out of here.
We're gonna find it. Well, I tried to get I thought Sue just changed it. If Sue did it, then the teacher wouldn't, we wouldn't have to do this.
I was just trying to kill two birds with one stone. You've had issues. So, and issues, unless, I don't know what issues.
Yeah, however, we need to. I'll do like you got it.
Oh, really? And the day that I did, remember the thing that they did for money for it, and it was here, I was able to connect with this very quickly. I just called Prince and they had to recall me. So I've got to have a phone call to Prince because I wanted to try that out. But there was nothing going on, so I programmed trying to equipment. Because that was the firm that the equipment was working at. McKinley. Because they used McKinley's equipment. And then that was how we're saying the original.
Do we have schedulers in the room? How about your elementary individual scheduling, your master schedule building for your year-to-year schedules? Yep. Okay, I feel. All right. So we're going to be looking at section 1, the student scheduling in Mark's area of the document. And I'll go ahead and we'll get started. So the first thing I want to talk about is before we can build a schedule, we have to have requests entered, right? Now, we saw earlier in the portal that concept of putting in requests via the portal. The course requests where we select electives, and then the full entire course plan of a student. Those are a couple of options. There's more options within Infinite Campus. One of those I'll find in scheduling, and it's called the Request Wizard. So what this tool will do is allow you to mass do requests for students. Every 9th grader needs English, let's say general science, algebra, and civics. So I would click 9th grade, click those courses that I wanted, and then all I would do was hit run. So that's one easy way to mass put in requests. Now you can use this tool for more things than the grade level. On existing requests, my middle option here, I can say if they have a request for science, then they get a request for a lab or some scenario where it's looking at requests that student has and giving them based on their existing requests. We can say prior roster data, which is nice. If you were in this course and you passed it, you were given credit, then you get the request for these courses. So that's kind of a nice one. If you're almost doing your own prerequisites, saying students can't take this course unless they've passed this course. And then you can do teams. If anybody does any team scheduling in here at all, you can do it based off of the student teams that they belong in. You can schedule with this tool. Now, you have this, and a lot of schools will do this and then open it up on the portal for requests. Like I said, that way the student signs in, they see all the required courses, then they log in, they choose their different electives. Now, so we have the request wizard, we have the portal, we have individual, which is our walk-in scheduler, I'll show here in a second, and then we have the ability for teacher course recommendations. I'm a high school teacher, I teach mathematics. Based on me having these students all year, these are students I think who are ready for the advanced math class next year. These ones should stay on the traditional path. So you add all those up, we have 5 different ways to put in requests. Okay? They have to get into the system. That was one of the questions. Now, what's it look like for an individual student? We're not going to go to the master schedule builder yet. We're going to say, show me a student who's brand new in the school. What I would do is I would navigate to the student by searching, which we talked about, or right from when we created that enrollment screen. Over on the right-hand side are all my requested units. And I can put in course requests by keying in the course number and hitting save. That's one of the 5 ways that you can do it. Key them in, hit save. If I don't remember one, I can pull my course section search over on the index here, so I have those right next to me. Now, what I'm going to tell the system is I want you to try your best to satisfy all of these requests without overloading a section. So if you think about this tool, it's almost like a mini master schedule builder. It's going to run here. I'll go ahead and tell it to load. It's going to think about it, and then it's going to process. So it just attempted to put all those requests that you entered into the student schedule, again, without overloading sections. Now, a couple of those are red. A couple of them are blue. I can hover over any of them, and I'm able to see who the teacher is, what the room number is, and how many students are in those classes. These are overloaded, 31 out of 30. That's why it's red, letting me know that. Now you'll notice the schedule did a pretty good job, but it didn't complete the schedule, right? There's still some empty spots. Need something for second quarter, need third and fourth or semester, depending on how you schedule there. Well, what I can do is I can just come up and hit this empty link, and it gives me all of the courses that are offered during that time frame. And it's pretty nice because I also see the amount of IEPs in that class. So if I'm putting in a special ed student and this class already has 3 IEPs, I might want to look at another section, right? When we talk about the master scheduling, it does the IEPs and behavior incidents. So it can look at both of those. But let's say, for example, this student is in and we're going to put that student into civil liberties. All I do is I click it and it adds them. Now, something unique about Campus is as soon as I added that student to the class, this teacher, they're now in their attendance roster, they're in their grade book, and they even can get a message saying Dylan or Joseph Ayala is going to be joining your class this week. A canned automatic message when I put somebody in there, which can be nice for teachers to get that notification. But my point for saying that is, remember when Mike was talking about streamlining processes? I put them in this class, they're in their grade book, they're in their attendance, they're ready to go. I don't have to go add them to multiple areas or anything like that. Now another way to do it is, let's say that Dylan didn't get into oceanography. He really wanted to. I can look over on this right-hand side and see which sections the student got into, and if there isn't a section number, they didn't get into the class. But you see how there's these ampersands here. I click that, and it shows me all the offerings of that course, which is pretty slick. I can hover over it, and like I said earlier, see the number of students, the amount of IEPs in that class. I can say, Dylan, we can get you into 7th period, 2nd semester. There's conveniently a wide open room there. Click it, and it's the same kind of concept. They're now in that oceanography class. So it allows you to take a look at their requests and see all of the offerings of when you could place that section. Pretty straightforward. Work-like tools you've used in the past? Not quite, nope. This is also where you do your drop ads. Students dropping this class and starting this class on this date. I would click the ampersand, and then up here in my manual mode, you have the ability to add, replace, or drop ad. So what I like about this is all in one spot. I put an effective date, say today. I say drop ad. I click that course. It's going to add women literature starting tomorrow, and it's going to end date French today. So it's a nice tool for doing those types of movements.
Does the replace move the marks that are associated with the course?
What happens? So the replace is the one I don't want to use, and you can take that tool right away. If I replace it, it's like that course never existed.
Right, but if they were like in English section 4 and they're moved to English section 1, it's still the same teacher. Will it move the grades?
It will. And the big key statement for that is you need an end date. When you put an end date in, so I could say drop ad and have the effective, or I can click any course and say they are here. I don't know if you can see it, but there's an end date. And if he ends that class today, all of those grades are saved for women in literature for that student.
I want to clarify something on that, though.
Sure.
I remember from the past presentation,
Mm-hmm.
is that your grade book in any class does not have to be identical for every student.
Correct.
So therefore, there's no problem in aligning any grades up to what's already in the grade book for the other kids.
Correct.
So then if the student transfers halfway through the 9 weeks, then I'm assuming that that percentage will count for 50%, or is it 50% of the points?
Right. Well, that would be up to you, but what the system would do is when you end date it, it'll take a snapshot and say, as of right now, Mike has a 79% C+.
And then they get to accept it or not accept it?
Exactly.
Okay.
And coming from teaching, what I don't want to misinterpret and have people think I'm saying is all of the assignments carry over, because they do not. So what carries over is the letter grade and the progress percentage. But what I would like to point out, and I'll talk to this when the teachers come in, is under your instruction tools, you do have a report that's called Student Summary. And what we would do, our policy in Duluth, was if a student's leaving your class, kick out one of these student summaries just for that student and send it to that teacher. Then they have all of the points, comments, percentages, everything that gives them that 79%. So it's just a nice little record.
So they can see them, but it's not going to appear in their new assignments.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Good. We would like for it to completely transfer over, but then all teachers would have to have identical grade books and assignments and things. So that just typically doesn't happen. If you're the same teacher, that information can go, though, if you're just moving a section. All right. Walk-in scheduling, let's go ahead and say I'm happy with this schedule. Click on the view schedule. You can have things like I want to display active and dropped courses, or just display active, which is kind of a nice tool they added. So when I say active and dropped, you'll see how a dropped course shows up with a little red drop date, and it's grayed out. It's not bold like the other classes. So you can see this kid was in Women in Literature till January 7th. Print the schedule from here. We provide you all of the templates for schedules, gradebooks, and transcripts. So all of the do we want to include counselor? Do we want locker combination? Do we want locker number? Do we want student photo? Those are all types of things that we give you preferences to create, and then your end users see those reports in the report drop-down. What does the school publish, or what does the school want you to use for a schedule format? And as we saw earlier, opens as a no record found. A PDF report of that schedule is what would happen. So maybe I want to view it just by day, can switch over, or maybe I want to view just term 4. Lots of those types of viewing options. Maybe I'd rather have it be a list, so I can just see it as a list more. Group by course. I really like this list, group by day, if you are one of the schools that has a rotating schedule. What's my A schedule look like? What's my B schedule look like? We can have up to 32 of those. We'll talk about it, but you can have a lot of different terms. Some of our schools using our schedule wizard switch every 2 weeks, redo the master schedule every 2 weeks, which is a lot of work, but our schedule wizard helps a lot in that scenario. I'll show you that in a little bit. Any walk-in schedule, individual schedule type questions for me, whether it's, something I'll point out here too, going back to that Ohio concept. Say you had a student who left this year, came back the same year, the same calendar year. I put an effective date in and restore, and that will actually populate them into all of their same classes they were in when they left. So that's kind of a nice tool if that's something that would be useful to your school. Yes.
Scheduling related, can you add in one course number? We call it like a block or a group, but it represents multiple courses.
And I've heard that question a lot, and I'm guessing, are you thinking for elementary schools typically?
Yeah, it's for elementaries, but sometimes high schools use it for their chemistry, and then they have their labs scheduled on just alternating days of the week. So they put in one number, but they want the course and then they want a lab, and scheduled all within one step.
Ours does not do that. I will show you the tools that we do provide. What would happen is if I go into scheduling, one thing we do have is a roster copy tool. So what schools at the elementary schools particularly, but you could use it in other ones, would say is, if this student has Mrs. Johnson for homeroom as a first grader, we want to copy them into their English, save, their spelling, save, their writing, save. So what it's doing is it's taking their whole homeroom roster and putting them into their subject areas.
So if they have 8 classes, you would do it 8 times.
Correct.
But only select the students once.
Correct. So it's not this exact same. I do know what you're saying about that block number, and that has to come in. The reason we don't do that is because of all of our planning tools, like that idea of if they don't take these electives or these course numbers, we aren't going to be able to say they're on track to graduate or they're meeting requirements. So we don't have something that puts in a block number or a block number that is the same as a bunch of courses, but we do provide you tools like this to do.
But in the lower elementary, if you put in a child, all of Mrs. Haska's students are taking Mr. Kurtz are all taking science next with Mr. Kurtz.
Yep.
But one student is really, really low and needs to go to Mr. Foreman. I think you can still pull out that one student from that group afterwards.
Correct. Yep.
We have some kids that are floating in language arts, depending upon how well they're doing.
Correct.
Moving around.
So what I wanted to say here is, so I switched to an elementary school. We're looking at a first grade mathematics, for example. You can always bypass all the requests for the elementary grade levels, and I could just say that these are the students who are in this class. I'm just clicking them right into the class. So what I was going to ask for the elementary folks in here, because you can also use our schedule wizard, but it comes down to how hand-picked or unique are those courses. Do we sit with a list and we form them, or is it random? When you're talking about class lists, you form them. So then I would probably say, picture this being 100 homeroom with Mrs. Grace. I could come in here and I could select all those students, right? But then we also have the ability to do this says copy students from this section. So I could say, well, mathematics, they all have AM homeroom class 1 save and copy list, and it will pull over all those kids who were in her homeroom class into mathematics, right? So that's kind of our workaround for that. You can manually add them. You can roster copy. Some schools will put in requests for homeroom and let the schedule wizard load them, and then see if those are okay, or just manipulate them a little bit, and then use that, which is a very fast process, but it would be up to you.
Can I add something, Mike?
Mm-hmm.
I know in my old district when we wanted to schedule kids who were kind of platooned together, we wanted them to be available for this block of time, and it actually represented 3 different classes, but they were always going to stay together. So we would create a course that we would schedule these kids and platoon them together, and then we would actually break it out into the different courses between their team teachers. You can do something like that in campus. You just have to know that it's not going to, that the rest of the things that we do the planning with would not be part of that process. If you're going to create kind of this holding bucket, keep these 3 classes so they're always together at the same time with the same kids, but then you're going to break it apart and then schedule it in with the 3 different teachers that are team teaching. You could do stuff like that in campus too. But it does bypass some of the new functionality with the scheduling wizard and the academic planner. Yeah. So just that you know, we can do that.
Okay. Another question too, thanks Paula, was on here referring to secondary teachers or co-teaching or team teaching. Infinite Campus has a pretty unique thing. You're going to have a primary teacher for your EMIS reporting, teacher of record, but you'll notice here, see how I can say I want to add a new teacher or a new section staff. If I say I want to add a new teacher, I throw in a teacher and I say that this is not state reported teacher. This is going to give this team teacher access to the gradebook if we want that. And so you can actually have at the elementary school 2 teachers really working together and sharing a gradebook, with one being that primary teacher. You also have the functionality here, new section staff. This would be for assistants, student teachers, special ed assistants, anything like that, where maybe they should be read-only of the gradebook. They need to keep up on things like that. They can have read-only access to the gradebook, but they can't edit or add anything into that gradebook as well.
Just a follow-up on
Sure.
that. If you have teachers that are team teaching, which EMIS in Ohio calls them co-teachers.
Co-teacher.
Can you have two co-teachers?
Yes.
And both report to EMIS?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And if the role here, not say report, yours would actually be co-teaching or co-teacher. I'll probably save it for the teachers, but we have the concept of student groups as well. And let's say me and Paula here are teaching 3rd grade, and I have the students on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and she has them on Tuesday, Thursday for a particular subject. The teachers themselves have something that they can do student groups, so these are the students I'm working with. And when I open that, I only see their information in the gradebook or their information when I'm putting in data. So it's like the idea of we have 60 kids combined, but I just need to look at my 30 students for this Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So that's called student groups. It's a pretty nice tool. Good questions. All right. So requests, walk-in scheduler. Inside of our scheduling tools, you'll see a couple of other things. We have what's called a student gap scheduler and a student gap filler. The student gap scheduler is pretty slick. What it will do is it's asking you to find students who have empty spots in their schedule. So I could say I want you to search everybody's entire schedule or everybody's first period and find those students who have nothing there. And that automatically brings you to the walk-in scheduler for those students so you can plug them in. So let's say you get to 90% completion or 95% completion. You run this student gap scheduler, it will find you all of those students and let you walk through and hand plug them into study halls, other electives, whatever course or sections that you want to put them in that they're in a gap for.
A follow-up on that is, is there a way that if they have a gap, you just push a button and it fills it?
There is. So we have the student gap scheduler, which shows you them, but then what we have is the student gap filler, or schedule gap filler. And this will say, which course would you like to fill in that schedule gap? Maybe it's a study hall, maybe it's what some schools do, which I think is kind of unique, is it says C counselor. So the kids get this printed schedule, they have a gap in it, in that one class that says C the counselor, they go and then they work out their elective. But you can use it how you want to. So I think this is what you're talking about. I noticed that question was in the list as well. Lunches, scheduling groups, and lots of reports. Before I do any of that, let's take a look at the schedule wizard here. Get a quick drink of water. So this was shown to you, I believe, before. This is something where I went around and trained. So I've worked with a lot of different districts across the country, modified blocks, rotating periods, mix of terms, which you can do on campus, like maybe 8th graders are on tries and 7th graders are on quarters or something like that. So I've done a lot of the training with this. We have all of our courses broken up by department on the left-hand side here. We have 13,390 requests. So this be it 400, 500 kid high school. 0 have been loaded. Over here we have periods 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and an activity period, which is neat, and then term 2, 3, and 4. So part of Infinite Campus was our founder and current owner was a tech director. He walked in, his dad was a principal, he said, show me how you build a schedule, I have 30 minutes. And he laughed at him, and he brought him in, and they had a big whiteboard. So they were using magnets, and that's what this is off of. In 1996, they developed this. A lot of other folks have this now, I believe, but what you can do is you can actually have it build the schedule for you, and I'll explain how all this works. But I can go up to build, and I can say I want to run a full build. And so what it's done is it's placed these sections out. Based on the number of requests, it knows how many sections need to be created. And they're all yellow, and when I hover over them, they tell you that they're empty. So those are all empty classes. But the reason that we have that many orchestras is we built 8 out of 8. It's saying we only needed 7, but I'm going to open up another section because we have 310 kids. I'll explain to how it places those in a second. But the real speed, I think, is when you come up and you tell it to actually load the system. It's very fast. Now that's not a perfect load completion, 88%, but as I hover over these, you can see that that actually filled in classes and it did a nice job balancing out the sections. Now where I think we differentiate from the competition is when I can do things like this, where I say, what if I want to move a section over here? It warns you, says if you move that, these kids have singleton conflicts. These students will be out of luck if you move that job skills course here. Maybe they're out of luck, that's the best spot. Maybe I drag it over here where we have less conflicts or zero conflicts. So you have real-time feedback when you're dragging and placing sections, building schedules. That's very helpful. We used to start it and go home for the night, let it load all night, come back at my school I worked at, and build it. So it is extremely fast. Now, we can also do things like this, where I would rather not have the system build it. I'm going to drag and drop and place sections where I think they should go based off of previous years and things. So all I do is drag it and place it. 30 out of, it's actually loading as these are placed. 30 out of 30, 30 out of 30, 24 out of 30, 20 out of 30. So they're green because they're missing data. When I hover over that, I can right-click and I can assign a teacher, and these are the teachers who are credentialed to teach that course, which is pretty nice. If I see any teachers in red, they're not available that time frame. They're currently teaching another course.
If Dorothy Addy has to have prep first period or has to have prep last period, would that be taken care of also?
Yes. So let's take a look at how that would happen. I'm going to, now the same thing goes for decreating or deleting these. I drag them right off of the board, and I'm able to rapidly delete sections as fast as I was able to create them. Schedule, so it wasn't a magic button you hit and it just comes up with this formula. It's because of the course planner and the staff planner. And this is what we came out with probably 3 years ago now, which I think really differentiates us. But when you look at a schedule, let's take 10th grade American Lit. 2 terms long, 30 kid max. Last year we had 292. This year we have a bigger incoming freshman class, so we have 18 more, so 310 with 18 plus. We're going to need to build 11 sections. Who are your teachers who can teach it? If you do rooms, you don't have to, but what rooms are there that be available to Todd in? And this is from the class side, but they all want a common prep. So none of them are going to be scheduled 4th period because they all want to work together during that time frame or something like that. And so to answer your question, we have the course planner, but then on the other side of it, we have a teacher who only works part-time at the high school or part-time at the middle school. Let's say that she's not available these periods, or she's a .4 FTE. It won't use that teacher as a resource during those time frames. So that's how you could do it for either a common prep, like a group, a department prep, or individual teachers. And now it's not going to use them as resources. So when you see that side of it, and we come in here, and now when we see it build, kind of see where those teachers are coming from and the room numbers, and we're seeing why we get such a high percentage load when we do that. Now, takes a little bit of work, right? You gotta set that up, but then you roll it every year. So what are the changes next year? We have this teacher left, we're offering this course now, we have to move this teacher over here. You can just manipulate your kind of pre-canned schedule and then do it again. Yes, ma'am.
Where's the certification information stored?
We have a staff tab in Infinite Campus where you're going to see that. It'll be your credentials, you're highly qualified, all of those types of areas. So if, instead of searching for a student, I search for a staff, that's where I would see that. And I can definitely point that info out to you.
We're going to do it at EMIS time.
She's going to do it at EMIS time.
Are you able to override or put a staff member in that's not certified?
Yes.
Because they're the coach and because you're the boss.
Yeah. Yep. A couple other just quick highlights. Now I can change this view. Some of you might prefer to see it this way, where now I have my courses and my periods going down, and I can see my 4 quarters right here. Maybe a better view. When I drag and drop, I don't have to scroll or anything like that. So you can change the view. I can also do things like I want to see it by teachers. So rather than courses on this left-hand side, notice now that I can look at teacher schedules. And you have reports like underutilized SCED teachers, which will find those that don't have a lot of sections. Lots of things there. Now, I can also do things like I would like to see when you build the system, I want to tell the system how to balance the sections. These are factors that you can increase the weighting on to say, I want the system to look at IEPs and use those when balancing sections. Or I want the system to look at discipline. It gives a class an average discipline, and it can balance by that. So for example, Paul is new to our school. I want to put her in Mike's class in the back, but he has an average behavior count of 7 kids, or 7 events. So in their time at the high school, the average student in that class has 7 behavior events. Paul has 13. We're going to put her with the teacher who has an average of 2 or 3 because it's less behavior events in the section. So that's how that would work. The whole system was created by our lead programmer, who I didn't even know that, but he got a doctorate in scheduling from the U of M. So some of the balancing and information about it is, first of all, it favors complete schedules. Its job is to complete schedules. So if me and Paul are in the same grade level, and we want to both get into this elective class, and if I get it, it completes my schedule, it's going to give it to me over giving it to Paul and still having gaps in her schedule, right? So it looks at age, so grade level and age. It looks at fulfilling those schedules as best as possible. And then it looks at any of your loading factors that you've put in the system. And finally, it's a tiebreaker, is alphabetical, because it needed something to break the ties. But you rarely run into that scenario where we're the same grade level, we both need the same class, it would both fill all of our requests. So it just doesn't happen. Yeah. Yep. So looked at how many offerings of that course are there, how many section offerings. So a couple other highlights, see what questions come up. The manual roster builder is a pretty slick tool. You'll see students who have IEPs have a yellow folder, like Bethany here. And maybe at our school, we go ahead and we manually place them into sections, which locks them into that class, and then we load around them. So maybe I take the special ed students who I know need to be with certain teachers, place them, and then let the schedule wizard do its thing and load all around those locked students. You can lock courses, you can lock departments, you can lock individual students. Some schools will say, we want to take care of band and choir, because those are huge classes. We're going to load those and lock them, and then work around those schedules.
If you move a section, does it readjust everybody's schedule, or?
It actually is up to you. So in the configuration, you could tell it, do I want it to reschedule everybody if it's added or deleted? Do I want it to auto-load everybody when a section is moved, dragged? But it's set to yes, so that's another impressive thing, is when I'm up here and I'm dragging and placing a new class, it's reshuffling the entire master schedule when I drop it there. So it is very powerful. And you can actually see this request percentage change as I add or remove sections. So what I typically tell people is get to 90% or around there, and then I would come in and use that student gap scheduler, find me those kids who have empty spots, and let's hand finish them. Another thing that is something about it is when you're doing your scheduling, let's see, if you guys were going live in the summer, you'd probably schedule one more year in Dazzle. We'd convert those completed schedules over. That's what most schools choose. Some say, we want to use your scheduling tools right away. It depends when you have to have your schedules out, and they would build this spring and this summer in campus. But what happens is most districts say, nope, we're waiting for next year, next winter. They fly out a trainer here. They come and they teach you that. I was at a trainer, and what would happen is if you have your requests in, I was 80% sure we could complete your schedule during that day, during that training day, if the requests have been entered prior to me getting there. Because it just is such a fast tool, right? It makes that information go in very quick. That's not always the case, and a lot of times requests weren't entered when I came out anyways, but it just does show you it's a pretty powerful tool. And we've had districts purchase Infinite Campus just for our scheduling tools. That was why they decided on us. So. Now, granted, this is one scenario. I'll go into this a little bit more, but you can have a lot of different terms. Are most of you guys quarters or semesters or trimesters probably? Doesn't really matter. You can have a lot of those different scenarios. You can also do things where you have the period schedule. So if I go to System Admin Calendar and we look at the calendar tools, this is a pretty standard 7-period day. We have a homeroom for 15 minutes. Period 1 starts at 7:46. End of school day is 3:33, and then we have this activity period. Did they talk about the activity period at all? It's something that's neat. You can have see how this is marked non-instructional, so it's not reported to EMIS. You can have your football teams, you can have after-school curricular activities, Knowledge Bowl, any of those types of clubs or non-academic courses in this period, and then you can give those coaches or other folks access to our our activity eligibility report. So if I take a look at this, and I am trying to stay on track, but you guys should see this piece, and I say, give me all of the kids who are on JV football who are failing class or missing a grade. What it does is it looks for all those students who are in that activity period, and it's able to pull in progress grades. So as of right now when I run this, everybody who has a C- isn't eligible to practice on Friday, or whatever your policy is. And it's able to look at those students who are scheduled into that non-activity course and pull eligibility reports from it. Coaches can have access to this, principals, assistants, whoever, and they can come in and generate that report. So I'm not sure if they mentioned that or not. Any periods set up, questions, rotating questions. You can have a lot of different period schedules. So if I say I want to do a new one, and when I say period schedules, just so we're on the same page, I'm talking about a rotating day. So A day. Today's an A day, what classes do you have? Tomorrow's a B day, what classes do you have? You can do that all the way up to 5 different period schedules, so every day is a different day, which surprisingly a lot of schools do. We have an auto rotation wizard. You guys just had some of you had a snow day today, I believe. All you do in campus, which is pretty slick, is you go to the calendar, you go to the days tab. Today is what, the 7th? I click on 7th. I say it's no longer a school day, instruction and attendance isn't safe today. I maybe add something like a inclement weather, save. I don't really want to do this right now, but it just made it a non-instructional day. All our ADM, ADA reports are updated. Everything is pulled from this area. So that concept of school cancellations, we have to push our days back. Some of you who might have a rotating schedule, if today was an A day and it was a snow day, what do? Is tomorrow going to be the A day, or do you just skip that A day? Because schools do it a lot of different ways, but then we have the rotation wizard that says, well, we need to reshift the rotation now because we missed an A day. Start tomorrow and rotate out. So we have tools like that built in as well. So you're not going to each day and telling it what period schedule it's on. Same with day events. You can put your spring break in here, holiday, winter holidays, and then you can copy it. So for those districts in here, you want to do this one time, but your whole district is closed. I do it once and I copy it to all my school calendars. It's pretty slick. Like, how am I doing? Am I missing a lot of stuff?
No, I think you're doing good.
Scheduling type questions, either about the wizard, requests, individual, any type of questions for me. The one thing I'll point out is that Infinite Campus does, so right now when you guys want to do your scheduling for next year, at the schools or the ITC or at the company, who rolls forward your calendars and enrollments and everything so you can start the scheduling process? ITC, okay. That sounds good. Sometimes it's the company and you have to submit a ticket, which can be a nightmare. A lot of companies actually do that. We do provide you those tools in campus. So since I was talking about the schedule, I was just going to point out that in System Admin Calendar, we have our own wizard. So you can say, I'm going to create a new calendar by rolling forward those fields that I select. Is your schedule going to be similar this year or as it was last year? If so, roll forward all those schedules, teachers, and section placement. So it'll actually copy what you choose to copy forward. Does that make sense? Hoping you guys are. So if I say I'm copying this to next year, just to give you guys a visual, here's your options. Do I want to roll forward schedule structures, days, day events, courses, sections, teachers, grading, setup, attendance, excuse codes, etc. And then I run it, copies all of that data to the 15-16 school year for us. Pretty slick process. We also have the enrollments, because you created the calendar, rolled everything forward. Now you got to get your students forward. It looks at the boundaries, if you guys are using school boundaries, which you probably are. This is where you make 7th graders into 8th graders, and those 8th graders are going to high school as a freshman. This is your grade advance, your enrollment roll forward. And we have the cleanup wizard, which I don't think any other vendors have. Let's say you rolled everybody forward, you're getting ready for scheduling, it's the springtime, you have a lot of kids leave your school, but you're trying to schedule for next year. What this tool will do is it will say, if you've created an enrollment next year and this kid has an end date on this year's enrollment, pull it out and wipe it out from next year. So it cleans it up. It says, they're not here at the end of this school year, they're probably not going to be here next year. Pull them out of the next year so your counts are accurate and all of that. If I'm going too deep, just let me know, but these are, I think, these are differentiators from other competitors. Maybe I'm getting too much in my training mode that I trained for too long. Any scheduling questions? Like what you see? Comments? Feedback? Okay. Head nods, I'll take that. I think then what me, Paula and I were talking about is she's going to do the EMIS reporting, and we're going to leave it up to you. Do we want to do the EMIS and then have it stop for lunch and continue? Do you want her to try to get through EMIS and then break for lunch so some of you don't come back because we're doing the teacher stuff? What works well for you guys? Would you like us to halfway do EMIS or try to get through the whole EMIS?
I think the break has to be at noon.
At noon, right. And so we have,
Do we have other sites
45
connected
minutes.
as well?
There are 5 places connected to us currently. We're a live connection.
well, either way, we'll start EMIS. It's just I didn't know if you wanted to break halfway through or have her finish.
Hard break.
Sure.
Hard break.
Hard break at noon. Is that all right, Paula?
Yeah.
All right, so it'll just take her a minute to set up here. I'll exit stage right. You want your own mouse.
I got my own computer too.
Cool. I'll get my stuff out of your way. Oh, would she need to do anything? No.
No, he's already got me. Wait, I want to do one thing. Before you do that.
I'll stay out of your way.
Do
you have the power
No,
supply?
I forgot what I was
And we'll go ahead and share.
In the EMIS discussion, what I wanted to do was to give you kind of a base of what happens with state reporting at Infinite Campus, so that you can understand how we work with the State Department of Eds, how we work with the districts, how we work with the ITCs or the regional centers across the country. So first of all, at campus we have what is called localization teams. And those localization teams consist of many different people. Each state team has what we call a business analyst or software product analyst. That person's job is to keep up with state regulated changes when it comes to state reporting. So Dan Oslin, who is the software product analyst, the business analyst for the state of Ohio, gathers requirements via focus groups. He works with districts that are current Infinite Campus users to gather that information. He also has 2 contacts with the Department of Ed here in Ohio that he works with, that he is in communication with when they're planning changes, what those are going to be. Those are the 2 primary people that groups that he works with. There are multiple people in the focus groups from Ohio, as well as the Department of Ed. There's also a quality assurance analyst on the team, and so that quality assurance analyst, as things are developed, they do the testing to make sure that it meets the state's needs and the district needs. I used to work in a school district. I did state reporting. And sometimes when state departments of ed come out with a regulated change that they want, the way that they describe it, the way that they want to gather data isn't always the easiest or the best way to do it in a software package or the easiest for districts. So we always want to have that balance between what does the state want and then what makes sense for the districts and how do they want to collect it and where do they want it in the application. Then the quality assurance analyst does the testing to make sure that it's included correctly in the extracts, that if there is a formula that takes place or a calculation that occurs at the time that the extract is generated, that it is doing that correctly so that you get the full value. We have a client executive for the state of Ohio. She is part of that localization team. Sometimes Teresa will hear things that are coming down the pike, and together they'll work with that localization team. There's a dedicated support representative who really learns how things are supposed to happen in Ohio. We have that for each of our states, so that if there's a problem and we can't figure it out, the support rep will dig into it, take the case up the food chain, so the business analyst and the quality assurance person can look at that development coding and find out what the issue might be. And then we also work with the ITC staff. Many states have organizations like what you have here in Ohio. They're called regional centers, they're called ESAs, they're called CISAs, they're called BOCES. You guys are ITCs. And that localization team works with those entities as well. So you can tell that we have a large group of vested districts that want to work on localization and keep that state reporting up to code. So the first thing that happens is when the state comes out with a new or revision to a current extract, we get the layouts from the state with the rules that they're looking to implement. And we produce a document. This is just an example. And the document that is produced talks about what is going to be collected, talks about what's going to be included, and this is created based on the requirements. We also all come up with what that report might look like. We have the data elements from the state, where in the user interface in Infinite Campus that's going to reside, how we're going to pull it out, format, length, default, and then logic. So if any calculations or math needs to be done, that's part of developing that extract. And so this document is created and used. I'll talk about that at the end. And that is where everybody starts their work from. You know what, I bet that didn't show up, did it? No, we won't, because I got another example for you. Once that document is created for the state layout with the field criteria, where it is in campus, and the extract rules, we create a data dictionary. So every state has a data dictionary. That is available online for the Ohio districts. We track any changes. So the state says, this is what we're going to do, and then next year they want to change it. We actually track those iterational changes that come out from the state departments of ed, so that we have a history on that. And then the software product analyst creates testing steps so that they have, a student. They show what they're going to extract, how you want the data to look, what the results should look like, so that that is embedded then into that process before we even release it as general code to all of the districts in Ohio. So it's lots of different steps, lots of tracking of where something started from and where it ended up today, or where it's going to change for next year. Does that make sense? Okay. The next thing we do, first of all, these are all of the current extracts. I'm going to show you how this looks in Campus and how it works, and it'll answer a lot of the questions that are on here. So as you look at this list, you guys know this list better than I do. Here's what's in, and I actually have 3 parts to it. Those are the reports or the extracts that are in Infinite Campus today. When you pull a report from the Ohio State Reporting Area, every extract has options. So you have a date range. Do you want it for a day? Do you want it for a week? Do you want it for a month? Do you want it for the quarter semester? Do you want it for a year? So districts in reality, they'll do little mini reports, maybe on a monthly basis before it's time to do a big report and get that state extract, because you want to have an opportunity to verify that the data is complete and accurate. There are different formats. So the state format is going to create that file that you're going to upload into the Department of Ed. It's based on what their rules and regulations are. You could create an HTML file so that you can look at all of the columns of data and you can see if it looks good, if there's missing data, those kinds of, in the right order, those kinds of things. And then lastly, you can extract it out and open it in Excel. So you have lots of different ways that you can look at that data. Every extract option includes a calendar select. For a school, do you want to do it for the entire district? What year do you want to do it for? So you have lots of options when you select the calendar. And then you could do it by ad hoc filter. And so Mr. McQuay, Mike, talked about those ad hoc filters. So if you wanted to run a report for a subset of students, then you'd be able to run it just for that group of kids. And I'll show you an example of that as well. So again, lots of different extract options. In our extract options, so when I go into the Ohio State Reporting and I go into the extract options, we have 24 extract types with 8 different reporting periods. We have a separate listing for the pre-ID extract, which is you can sort by grades or choose by grades. We have an EMIS cross-enrollment report, SSID extracts, students without SSIDs and SSID usernames. We have the kindergarten pre-ID files, the pre-ID test files, and then the SSID import for those numbers. So that's kind of how it's broken out. I'm going to show this all to you, but we have to switch over so that everybody else can see it. So that's why I'm doing this first. It's a little out of order. Secondly, there are places in Infinite Campus that have been localized for Ohio. And when you put data in these areas, that's what gets pulled out for your state reporting, for your extracts. So one question is, where do we put the highly qualified teacher information? Well, that's in your staff area. So the localized tabs are the behavior editors. Mike touched on that. Every event and resolution, I'm going to show it to you, is you can tie it to a state code. Only those behavior events and resolutions that you tie to state codes get pulled out. So if you want to have a behavior event called peer mentor, and you don't tie it to a state code, you can track positive behavior, but we don't send it to the state. If you want to have a behavior event called car problems, we're not going to tie that to a state code. It's not going to go to the state for reporting. We have localized the gifted area, the gifted tab for you to track your gifted information on, and it includes a badge update tool. And I'll show you that when I get into Campus. Home primary language has been built for the languages that you collect. Everybody across the country collects languages, home primary languages, but you all have different codes and you all have different verbiage and different, I know she's rolling her eyes, but it's basically the same, but we have to localize it. We have a specific Ohio enrollments, and I'll show you that when we get to a student's enrollment record, and then we built in the Ohio immunization rules. In Infinite Campus, you can collect immunizations, and for every state, you're all kind of pretty close because a lot of them are federal things, but we build in the rules. So when an immunization date is entered and it's saved, it calculates compliancy based on the student's age at the time that they got the immunization and the age and duration. So some shots must be at least a year apart, and if it's less than that, then they're not compliant. So we've built those rules in for Ohio for your health staff to calculate immunization compliancy. Special education forms are in Infinite Campus. I'll show you, I'll just go in and print one up so you can see what that would look like, but that is very localized. And of course, the state reporting. We have census demographics that contains data just for Ohio, and again, the enrollment record. Courses, we track the course information, basic for Ohio for your extracts, staff, and student graduation tabs. So those are the areas in campus that contain the data for your Ohio extracts. Make sense? Okay. All right. There's a lot happening in EMIS right now, and it's in progress. So right now for the 14-15 school year, your State Department is a revolving door. They are coming out with changes with not a lot of lead time. So we've already made some changes to information for 14-15. We added the pre-ID files for assessments, the KRA, kindergarten, and this information has been added. We updated attendance from reporting in whole half days to now in decimal hours for your extracts. We've removed some old reporting periods, and we've added some new windows for student calendar, course, and sections. And it's not finalized. It is still changing. And I got a bunch of stuff from the business analyst and documentation that he's been receiving from the state. So this year is a revolving door right now. Everything needs to be finalized so that the end of year stuff is correct, but he wanted you to know that it is a revolving door right now. Okay? And I wanted you to know what we've been working on. User learning opportunities. So how do we learn about Ohio localization in campus? Well, in the campus community, and once I can get back to my other windows, I'll show you that, we have a knowledge base, and in that, everybody in the district, anybody in the district can have access to campus community. It is a great spot to learn about the product, to review changes that have come out, and it contains all of the localization for the state of Ohio. And part of that localization, I showed you the form that we start with, and this is one that has to do with your student demographics. So it's all printable, and I'm going to leave this with the ITC. But when you go out there and you look at the localization, it contains simulations and discussions. So you can converse with other Ohio districts on an extract that you might be having an issue with or you need some help and clarification. It contains the screenshots, the report logic. It talks about the field level data. It shows you examples. If you pull it out as a state extract, what it's going to look like. If you pull it out as an HTML file, what it's going to look like. It shows you what it's going to look like if you bring it into Excel. It's going to show you the logic, and then it's going to show you all of the field stuff that I just talked about. What does the state want? Where is it stored in campus? What are we going to do with it when we pull it out? I'm going to say yes. So that is all part of the campus community. And I'll just leave this. This is just an example. And every page or every extract you can actually print as a PDF. And so it gives you all of that information. But the bigger part is the discussion in the forums tied to each of these. So you'll see conversations in there from the client executive, from the ITCs, from other districts. And that is all in campus community. There's also Ohio user groups that meet on a regular basis. Typically, well, we've had them at COVAC, we've had them at LGCA, we've had them at Worthington Public Schools. They're hosted by districts, but there's usually one in the north part of the state and one in the south part of the state, and you can attend those user group meetings. And then there's the focus groups. So the district EMIS coordinators have meetings, the ITC has representatives and they have meetings, the campus client executive has meetings, the business analyst has meetings. So there's always more ways to learn about the EMIS reporting. And can I share this with you just if anybody has an interest to take a look at it? Because I don't think anybody here has access yet to campus community. You have to be a customer. I just wanted to give you an example of what is available on there and how you can print it off if you want to, or save it on your desktop. All right, so now I want to click into, I want to change windows. Okay.
Will we be able to share?
Pardon?
Will you
Yes.
share this?
Yes. Any questions? about what we kind of reviewed? Yes.
Paula, is all the documentation on the campus community?
It is, all of it, broken out, and I'm gonna show that to you, at the end, just so you can see what that looks like when you go into campus community. And we'll have to do a little switch for that, kind of goes away, where is this all located?
Simulation.
You can close that one.
Pretty nice.
It's in Firefox's,
Oh, it's
that's
in
the one I want now. and
Which
then
one do you-
Let's do this quick, let's do
This
campus community first,
This
because
one
it'll
here?
just take Firefox. Let's do
Firefox.
Firefox first, since we're talking about campus community. And then we'll switch back to IE.
All right.
Technology is great when it works, right?
Mm-hmm.
You gotta float when things like this happen.
It's fine. So the campus
Yep,
community.
perfect, yep.
Sure.
If you wanna just hang out, I will just, or go back and make sure it's okay, we're gonna just
Oh,
do
no,
for a
that's
minute.
fine. Take your-
So this is the campus community. Now, because I am not a school district, my copy of Infinite Campus is not a school district. I don't have a static IP. I can't just click the campus community button, which is in the upper right-hand corner, and just automatically come in here because I'm not a real district. But our customers can just use Infinite Campus, and in the app section in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see campus community listed, and that's how you access it. When you get in there, you will see, you'll come to your home page, and there's information about surveys, events that are coming up, some things that have happened, and based on your support, if you do support tickets, you'd see your tickets in here as well. But in the knowledge base, if I just click the knowledge base, this is set up a lot like Infinite Campus, so it's going to look familiar in that the left-hand column is going to show, as I open it up, all of the different components of campus. And if I scroll down, there's one called localization. And when I expand it, it will have all of the different states that we do localization for, and Ohio is one of them. And when I click on Ohio, then in the middle section, will come up what the overview is. It shows you the localized tabs, the state reporting, and the special ed information. And as I scroll down, here's where I opened up that student demographics information, the handout that I just gave, and I printed it as a PDF. Here's where you access the simulations. It's going to show you how to do it, and then discussion with other people in Ohio if you need help with this question. Is there a comment in the back room? Am I leaving something out? No? Okay, quit talking.
Did you mention how it's linked in? So like if you're on a screen, let's say you have a question about whatever you're viewing on the screen is context sensitive, so you click the campus community, it brings you right to that spot, which is pretty slick.
Yeah. So it's really a nice tool to have, and everything is in here. The report logic, the editors, an explanation of what all the fields are, generating the extract, what it's going to look like, and he has a sample of it.
Just to ask a good question, do you want questions about
Sure.
this document? Or
Sure, go ahead.
Is this for the 14-15 school year?
Yeah, it's always what's currently released. So as those things from EMIS change, this documentation will be updated. When it becomes part of a general release, generally available for the districts in Ohio, they update the documentation to go along with it. Did you find something that's not updated?
Well, I didn't know if you wanted to get into what's a peer and end service type and what that means, and that it only reports the latest record of a student instead of all of the event records.
In what area?
For the GI.
That is a question we'll take back to the software product analyst, because that's really a development kind of question about what are you pulling out and why you're only pulling the last record, if that's an issue.
Yeah, and like it says, like students that are withdrawn, it doesn't report them again until the end of the year. This year, EMIS became cumulative, and so it needs to be reported all the time. So I didn't know if this was like last year's logic.
When did you print that report out?
This is the
That's the one you gave Dave.
How did it get over here?
Because it probably said EMIS.
Does it have a date?
EMIS, and people just like,
Go that way, okay. You know what I would want to do with that?
I'm sure it's working for them.
I would want to go back and ask, no, it's always going to print when it's going to show January 2015. I would have to go back and look to see when, if it's cumulative, if we miss getting that updated.
Okay.
Because I know that EMIS stuff is changing really fast right now.
Right, yeah.
So it's supposed to be, as soon as it's generally available, it's supposed to update the documents at the same time. However, I don't know where that might have fallen apart. So,
is this our copy to keep?
yeah, I wanted you to have a copy of it, yeah.
Mine can keep.
And you know what, for whatever, because I printed this a couple days ago, maybe it's already been updated, and I haven't, that's the old one. Yes, it's supposed to be updated. So anyhow, that's campus community and how you can find out the things that are pertinent to Ohio, and then how you can print the stuff off. So there's lots and lots of great information out here about your state reporting. Okay. Questions about campus community before we switch out? Thank you.
Where do you want to go?
You can even shut this Firefox down, and I just want to go to IE now. Yep, perfect. Okay, so where should I start here? All right, so to start with, I am logged in again as somebody who has permissions to all of Infinite Campus. Remember, the state reporting can be controlled with permissions, who sees it, who doesn't see it, and you can even control the state reporting area in the enrollment record. We have some districts who take that out and it's only managed by certain people. The whole district isn't privy to it. So in my index, if I scroll down, in the same location for everybody is their state reporting, and yours is the Ohio state reporting. When I open that up, you can see the different extracts that we have. In the Ohio extracts, this is where we have the 24 different sets of extracts. Okay. So when I pick one, if I just pick the student demographics, I can pick my reporting period, and then my date range. And remember, we can put in any date range that you want for calculation. And my school year in my demo environment goes from July 1 to June 30th, so I'm going to put it in a year. I have my format option. Remember, you have 3 different ways that you can produce it: the state format, the HTML, or CSV. I understand that your state format and the data collection site is a lot like in Minnesota. You can upload it anytime you want, get your error reports back, fix the data in Infinite Campus, pull another extract, and upload it until the time that it's a final upload. So you can pull this anytime you want to and as frequently as you want to. When you pull it, it's always going to pull from new. It's going to look at the data again and pull from new data. So as you're making data corrections and you do another extract, it's going to pull based on those data changes that you've made. I'm going to just do this. Here's where those ad hoc filters come in. So if you need to do it for a subset of kids, we can do it for a subset of kids. We also then get to, based on your permissions, do you have the permissions to print for one building, all buildings, current year, or previous years? So in this example, if I wanted to print for my current year Adams School and just generate it so you can see what it would look like, this is going to show me the HTML.
Paula, do you have to do each file type separately?
Mm-hmm. It's pulling from different information. So here's the example of the student demographics with the HTML. Roll over, you'll see all the rest of the data. Okay. If I had permissions to do it by year, I could then do it by separate years, and right from here, go back into my previous years, and again, print for one school, a subset of schools, all schools, whatever you needed to do. Okay, so we can do it as a chunk rather than one building at a time. That makes sense? Questions about that? We also have the submit to batch. So that gives you the opportunity to generate a file, submit it for batch processing at a different time. So if you wanted to do a report and it was going to be the entire district, and oh, by the way, we're printing report cards today, so I don't want to do this until 8 o'clock tonight, I could submit it to the batch, schedule when I want this to be generated, and then when it's done, it's going to show up in your inbox as a completed report. We have that option as well. Okay. So there are all of your reports for your Ohio extracts. The pre-ID extract, I can sit here, we could generate all of these if you wanted to. I don't know if we really need to go through and do all of this, but I could go ahead and generate all of the other ones. I don't know how in-depth you want to get with these. I'll show you what the state format would look like. So when I generate the state format, it's going to ask me if I want to open it or save it. I'm going to save it so that you can see what it looks like when you get it on your desktop, and then I'll open it. Remember, it's doing those calculations if it has to do the calculations. Oops. There we go. Oh, I did an HTML. I got to go back and do the state format. Excuse me. Let's do that. Okay, I'm going to do a save as. And I can't throw it on my desktop, can I? Because you just lost my screen, didn't you?
Yeah.
So I'll just open it here. Do you get this one?
It's not doing the full screen.
Okay. So that's what it would look like. And that's the file from your desktop then that you would upload to the data collector to get your reports back. Okay. Questions about that? Do you want me to go through each of these so you can see what they look like for the report options? EMIS cross enrollment report, you get to choose what you want to include. And I can only submit that to batch. I'm not going to do that now. And it will print it. SSID extract. Okay, again, this is the HTML. Questions on any of these? I can't do an import because that is when you want to bring those numbers in a batch. Can't do, because I'm not a real state or district. Kindergarten pre-IDs. I have to go to my elementary school.
I forget, but do you guys have an SSID student locator agent that can run on the zone integration server?
We have Mike, do you want to talk about that maybe? Do you want to talk about the state edition, the quasi state edition here?
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about that last time, but we've actually provided for the state of Ohio a version of our state edition of the software to allow that kind of thing to do a state search for every district in the state. Checkdowns to look for those things.
Okay, so it'll assign the SSIDs automatically based on the data in the campus.
And then if you're talking about the SIF project,
yes,
that is in development because I guess it's supposed to be ready this year or next year, and there's been some timeline changes.
Well, there's the student, there's the Ohio profile for state reporting for EWS, but then there's the SSID, which is published and it is available.
And that's at import, so you can pull it down and import numbers in, matching it with the kids in your database for it. Yeah.
But it would be a manual process, not a SIF process.
Not yet. That SIF project is something that Ohio is working towards. We do it in other states that are already using SIF to work with the state with getting data up and down from the state via SIF. But Ohio's still in the planning processes.
We provide the SIF agents and all that.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because if it helps for you guys know, there is an SSID agent that works with SIF already before the Ohio profile.
Okay. I don't know where they are with that. Yeah, Daniel didn't say anything about that.
We can check with you.
Yeah.
We'll talk to Dan, the localization.
Because there's two parts. One's the SSID student locator agent. The other one is Ohio profile, which is reporting data to the state.
Got it.
That part's not developed and written, but the SSID is.
Okay.
Because we already have vendors using it. Or doing it.
Good.
All right. Okay. Any other questions about what we're seeing here?
Isn't that the SSID import? Isn't that right above you?
But that's
Not the one you.
It would be automatic. It's that's the main.
We have to go get the file from the
Send
state.
it off. They get
Got
the IDs, come back and import them.
Got it.
This would be
All of it.
zone integration server.
Got it.
You have to get the file from the state.
We'll go talk to Dan, and we have your email, I assume. So.
Yeah. I was just told that this stuff was on hold.
You're right, the SIF, Ohio Profile for submitting data to the state is, but the SSID part does work between, vendors and this integration server and SSID site.
Well, in my understanding, well, we'll check on it, because my understanding was there were 2 vendors that were going to be the testers for that process, and did they release it for the other vendors? I don't know.
Yeah.
Right, wasn't that what you understood, Frankel, originally, with that guy in that meeting that we had, that it was going to be, yeah, so we'll check. That's all I can say is we'll check on that. Okay, all right. Other questions about what we're looking at here? And then, so this is where your reports are pulled from, again, one at a time. And then based on your reporting period, and these are all in flex right now with what's going on at the state. So when we look at that information, then the items where it's pulling from. So I'm going to go to census, and I'm going to go to a person, and I'm going to just look for my student, and here's my student. So when we pull information from the student in the enrollments area, we are going to pull for the current year, of course, whatever year you're pulling for, and I'm going to minimize this. And as we move through, you'll see the items that are Ohio specific. And these tables are managed by the localization team at Infinite Campus. So as new codes come out, as codes are deprecated, that information is released in in updates, so that you would be applying those updates and those changes would be visible. So if I scroll down, we have our reporting fields, state reporting fields, and this is the area that if you want to, you can remove who sees this. Some districts only want a few people managing it. Some districts have every elementary or every registrar at the districts or the schools managing it. Some want to really limit it. But everything that's in here is very Ohio specific. Oops. So it should all look familiar. So state reporting fields are in here. Now, earlier you asked Mike McCoy about defaults, and in your state reporting attribute dictionary, there are items that you can have defaults, so that when a new student is enrolled, those defaults will be used. Some items, like grade level, you're not going to default. You're going to pick that for every student, but you do have the ability to set a default value for those areas that can be defaulted. Any questions about what we're seeing here? You know what? It's a hard stop at noon, right? Ding, we're there. I just looked up the clock. And then special ed fields. Again, items that pertain to Ohio. Okay, so we will pick up after lunch, from enrollment forward. We'll look at the rest of the screenings that are have the elements for data collection for Ohio. Right? All right.
1 o'clock, okay, to reconvene? 1 o'clock.
Can we leave our computers here?
Yes.
Okay.